Hey guys, tonight we're diving into the sweet world of honey, a gift from the gods and the ancient Egyptians' ultimate all-purpose miracle product. Imagine yourself in the heat of the Egyptian sun, sitting in a bustling market beside a honey vendor, the sweet aroma of fresh honeycomb wafting through the air. You're witnessing something spectacular, something you probably won't survive in a modern setting. Ancient Egyptians didn't just use honey as a treat, they used it in ways you'd never expect, like medicine, cosmetics, and even as an offering to their gods. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, feel free to post where you're tuning in from and what time it is there. Let's see how far this journey can go. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. We begin with an important truth about ancient Egypt. Honey wasn't just a sweet snack to them. It was a multifunctional wonder. This sticky substance produced by bees was the backbone of many aspects of daily life, and its significance spanned from the kitchen to the tomb. Ancient Egyptians had an unshakable belief that honey was magical, capable of healing wounds, making skin glow, and even acting as a sweet link to the gods. It wasn't just something they ate, it was a full-fledged part of their economy, culture, and spirituality. Honey wasn't always easy to come by. In a world without supermarkets or packaged goods, acquiring it required effort. You had to either find a wild hive, which could involve a risky climb up a tree or cave, or you had to be part of a carefully organised beekeeping system. Egyptian beekeepers were considered specialists, almost artisans in their craft. And this craft, well, it was wildly successful, as the Egyptians managed to keep their bees happy in some of the harshest climates on Earth. Historians still argue whether the Egyptians were the first to systematically cultivate bees, but one thing's for sure, they perfected it. Beekeeping was so advanced in Egypt that the pharaohs used honey as both a tribute and an asset in their trading. It was highly valued, and its scarcity made it incredibly precious. The Egyptians even believed that bees were born from the tears of the sun god Ra, adding a divine element to the already sacred process of honey production. But honey wasn't just about religious symbolism or luxury. It was a practical tool, an all-in-one solution for a range of needs. From cleaning wounds to providing sweeteners for their bread and beer, honey had a variety of purposes. Its longevity was also a major plus. Honey never spoils. Archaeologists have found jars of honey in ancient tombs that are still edible. In fact, honey was often placed in tombs as part of the burial rituals. Some say it was meant to provide nourishment for the deceased in the afterlife, ensuring they never went hungry in the great beyond. Let's shift for a second and picture the scene. You're in the bustling marketplace of ancient Thebes. You spot a stall overflowing with the golden, viscous liquid, and you can't resist. You reach for your purse, except, oops, you don't have a purse. You're a commoner, but that doesn't matter, because honey wasn't just for the rich and powerful. No, everyone from the humble worker to the royal family had access to honey, at least in small quantities. It wasn't just a luxury for the elite. It was a staple in the everyday Egyptian diet. And, as we'll see, it was used for way more than just sweetening bread. Egyptians were also masters of creating complex recipes for honey. They'd mix it with various herbs and spices to create medicinal pastes, balms, and even perfumes. What could be more comforting than imagining a soothing ointment of honey and lavender, healing a sore or a minor burn? That was a common part of everyday life in Egypt. Historians are still fascinated by how the Egyptians knew all of this without the advanced science we have today. Was it trial and error, or was it something more? Some believe ancient Egyptians had an instinctive understanding of the therapeutic potential of nature, and honey, with its natural antibacterial properties, was a prime example of this wisdom. We know honey was used to treat everything from sore throats to eye infections. Imagine yourself in ancient Egypt gently dabbing honey over your skin to help it heal, or calming your throat with a spoonful of honey. It's clear that for the Egyptians, honey wasn't just a treat. It was part of a larger, holistic approach to health. From the kitchen to the healing room, honey was woven into the very fabric of Egyptian life. Now imagine yourself winding down, knowing that the same honey you've enjoyed in modern-day recipes was once used in these ancient rituals, not just as a foodstuff, but as something far more valuable. You probably didn't think about honey being the centerpiece of an ancient economy, but that's exactly what it was in Egypt. It wasn't just a sweet treat on a lazy afternoon. Honey played a critical role in the country's economic systems, trade routes, and even social hierarchy. Let's get into it. Imagine yourself back in time, standing by the Nile River, watching boats laden with precious goods float by. Among these commodities, one item stood out: honey. It wasn't just a luxury, it was a commodity that powered a whole segment of Egypt's economy. You see, Egypt's beekeeping operations were sophisticated, and they quickly became a cornerstone of Egyptian agriculture. Not only were the bees an essential part of food production, but their honey was part of an even bigger trade. You could find honey in the temples of the pharaohs, yes, but you could also find it in the bustling markets of cities like Memphis and Thebes. Its demand was so high that it found its way into the hands of people from all walks of life. But it wasn't just for Egyptians. Honey was traded across Egypt's borders, making it a sought-after export. Egypt became known for its high-quality honey, and this fact wasn't lost on neighbouring civilizations. Historians still debate the full scope of honey's trade routes. Some believe that Egyptians were the first to establish an international honey trade with their neighbours, including the Mesopotamians and the Nubians. Others argue that honey trade began after Egypt became a more established agricultural powerhouse. Regardless, it's clear that honey was part of the currency of ancient Egypt, contributing significantly to the empire's wealth. But honey's place in Egypt wasn't just about financial prosperity, it was also about status. Just as we might associate luxury goods like diamonds or rare spices with wealth today, honey was a mark of social status in ancient Egypt. It was a commodity often reserved for the rich and powerful, with pharaohs and priests especially keen on using honey for various ceremonial and health-related purposes. The elite's access to honey was so important that it played a role in diplomacy and alliances. Kings and rulers from neighbouring countries were known to send honey as a gift to pharaohs, sometimes in the hopes of cementing peace treaties or strengthening alliances. At the same time, common people in Egypt weren't left completely in the honey dust. While they didn't have the luxury of extravagant honey-based banquets like the royal court, they did have access to honey for everyday uses, particularly as a sweetener in their bread, which was a dietary staple. In fact, bread and honey were often served together, a humble yet nutritious meal. It was common for Egyptians to dip their bread in honey as a simple but satisfying snack after a long day of labour. Interestingly, historians have uncovered evidence that honey wasn't just used as food, but also as a form of currency. Egyptian workers who contributed to large-scale building projects, like the construction of pyramids, were sometimes compensated in honey. It was a tangible, valuable asset, and its use as a form of currency likely helped smooth over labour relations. Imagine being a worker in the shadow of the Great Pyramid, receiving your wages in honey, knowing that this sweet reward would last for months, sweetening your daily bread and tea. Even in the royal courts, honey wasn't just a ceremonial object, it was also a method of demonstrating power. The more honey a pharaoh could afford, the greater their apparent wealth and influence. Honey was the symbol of not just material prosperity, but also divine favour. After all, bees were considered sacred creatures in Egypt, believed to have been born from the tears of Ra, the sun god. So when a pharaoh indulged in honey, they were not just indulging in sweetness, they were acknowledging the divine origins of their power and their connection to the gods. Historians still argue whether honey's role in ancient Egypt was more spiritual or material. Was it its divine association that made it so valuable, or was it simply because it was rare and hard to produce? Some scholars believe that honey's high price in Egypt was linked directly to its spiritual significance, while others argue that it was more of a practical commodity with wide-reaching economic implications. It's a tough call, considering the ways the Egyptians blended the practical with the divine in almost everything they did. Let's take a pause for a moment and let this sink in. Honey was not just a foodstuff, it was a versatile tool for prosperity. It was a part of Egypt's economy, its social structures, and its religious fabric. Whether you were a pharaoh with honey-laden feasts or a humble farmer with a jar of the sticky stuff, honey was there, an unspoken symbol of Egypt's sweetness, both literally and figuratively. Imagine now that you're standing in an ancient Egyptian temple, surrounded by towering columns and the flickering glow of oil lamps. At the altar, priests are preparing offerings, and among them you notice a small, glistening jar of honey. You might assume that honey's presence here is simply for sweetness, but in ancient Egypt, honey was as sacred as the gods themselves. From the highest pharaoh to the most humble commoner, honey was seen as a divine gift, a symbol of purity, and even an offering to the gods. It wasn't just about taste, it was about connection. The Egyptians believed that honey bridged the human and the divine, and they used it to honour their gods in the most sacred of rituals. As we explore the religious significance of honey, picture yourself standing in the crowd at a grand festival dedicated to the goddess Hathor, the goddess of love, beauty and fertility. The air is thick with incense, and the sound of drums fills the space. At the heart of the festival, priests pour honey onto altars as an offering to Hathor, praying for her blessings of abundance and joy. This was no ordinary gift. Honey, as a symbol of sweetness and abundance, was believed to carry the hopes and desires of the people straight to the gods. Historians still debate whether honey was always used in Egyptian religious rituals, or if it became more prominent later, as Egyptian society evolved and began to focus more on divine favour and the afterlife. What we do know is that honey became a central part of these sacred practices. It wasn't just an offering, it was believed to have magical properties. In Egyptian mythology, honey was sometimes described as the literal nectar of the gods. The gods themselves were said to consume honey to sustain their divine powers. For the Egyptians, giving honey in a ritual wasn't just about showing devotion, it was about sharing in that divine energy, hoping to be granted the gods' favour in return. For the priests, using honey wasn't just about creating a pleasing scent or a tasty treat for the gods. The very act of offering honey was an act of devotion. Honey was often mixed with other ingredients like incense, milk, and wine to create elaborate and fragrant offerings for the gods. Imagine yourself watching a priest standing over the altar, carefully blending honey with herbs, creating a sweet-smelling potion meant to please Ra, the sun god, or Osiris, the god of the afterlife. It wasn't just about the act itself, it was about the belief that the honey was a conduit for divine blessings. In the realm of funerary practices, honey also had a profound significance. When a person passed away, honey was often placed in their tomb as part of the burial process. Archaeological evidence shows that honey was found in numerous tombs, some of them dating back thousands of years, still preserved. You might think of honey as something that's only good for a short time, but the Egyptians believed it had eternal qualities. It was often placed alongside food offerings, assuming that the deceased would need it in the afterlife. Honey's preservative qualities were seen as symbolic of eternal life, ensuring that the deceased would not go hungry on their journey through the afterlife. Historians are still unsure why honey was considered so sacred and how this belief evolved. Some suggest that the belief in honey's divine nature might have been tied to its rarity and its ability to sustain life in harsh environments. Others argue that honey's sweet and rich taste, as well as its healing properties, made it the ideal offering to the gods. Either way, it's clear that honey wasn't just a food. It was a sacred substance, a link between the mortal and divine worlds. But honey wasn't the only sweet thing the Egyptians offered to the gods. In fact, they used many different kinds of food and drink to try to earn divine favour. However, honey's role was unique. It was believed to carry the essence of life and vitality, which is why it was used so often in religious rituals. When we think of offerings today, we might imagine flowers, candles, or incense. But for the Egyptians, the simple act of offering honey could be the most powerful gesture of devotion. As you walk away from that temple, you might find yourself reflecting on the significance of honey in Egyptian culture. Not only did it serve a practical purpose in everyday life, but it also served as a medium through which the ancient Egyptians sought connection with their gods, ensuring their favour both in this life and in the next. Now that you're immersed in the religious and cultural significance of honey in Egypt, let's take a turn toward a more practical and somewhat surprising application: honey as medicine. The Egyptians weren't just using honey to sweeten their bread or please the gods, they were also treating ailments with it, believing that this sticky substance held the power to heal. You might be picturing a modern-day cough drop or a natural remedy, but for the ancient Egyptians, honey was far more than just a soothing throat lozenge. It was part of an ancient and highly sophisticated medical system, one that blended observation, trial and error, and yes, a little bit of divine intervention. Imagine yourself in the role of an ancient Egyptian doctor, a esidweno, pronounced swenu, who specialised in treating everything from infections to broken bones. Your medicine chest is filled with various natural remedies and stuffs, and at the very top of the list is honey. It wasn't just a sweetener for your tea. Honey was a vital ingredient in your potions and balms. Egyptians believed honey had incredible antibacterial properties, and modern science has confirmed this. Honey is a natural antibiotic capable of fighting infection and promoting wound healing. It's this quality that made it a prized commodity in medical treatments. Historians still debate whether the ancient Egyptians understood the science behind honey's healing powers, or if they simply observed its effectiveness over time and passed down this knowledge through generations. While they didn't have microscopes or modern antibiotics, they certainly had a remarkable understanding of natural remedies. Honey, combined with other local herbs, was used to treat everything from eye infections to skin wounds and even respiratory issues. You might have found yourself walking into a doctor's office in ancient Egypt only to have a honey-based concoction prescribed for whatever ailed you. What's even more fascinating is that honey wasn't just used for physical ailments, it was also applied to emotional and mental health. The Egyptians believed that honey had the power to soothe the soul as well as the body. Some texts from the time suggest that honey was used in rituals to calm anxiety and induce restful sleep. Imagine yourself lying down after a long day, a honey-scented balm massaged into your temples as a way to ease you into a peaceful slumber. Whether it was used to treat stress, minor cuts, or digestive issues, honey seemed to have a cure for nearly everything. Egyptian medical papyri, like the Ebers Papyrus, contain numerous recipes for remedies involving honey. One such formula combines honey with frankincense and myrrh, both prized substances in their own right. This mixture was believed to have powerful healing properties, useful for treating wounds and infections. It wasn't just an occasional remedy. Honey was a cornerstone of Egyptian health practices, part of everyday life for people of all classes. Whether you were a high-ranking official or a humble farmer, honey had a place in your medicine cabinet. In addition to wound care, honey was also used to treat digestive issues. It was often mixed with other ingredients like figs or dates to create a soothing remedy for gastrointestinal discomfort. If you were suffering from a stomachache in ancient Egypt, chances are you would have been offered a sweet honey-based solution to settle your stomach. Historians still argue whether honey's medicinal use was universal across the ancient world or unique to Egypt. Some believe that honey was used medicinally in other ancient cultures, such as Mesopotamia and Greece. Others argue that the Egyptians were the first to realize its healing properties and that they pioneered the practice of using honey in medicine. Regardless of where the idea originated, one thing is clear: honey was revered for its healing powers in ancient Egypt. Even today, many modern health trends emphasize the benefits of honey. From raw honey to Manuka honey, we continue to use it for its antibacterial and anti-inflammatory properties. The ancient Egyptians may not have had the luxury of modern medicine, but they certainly knew how to harness the power of honey for health and well-being. So the next time you reach for that jar of honey in your kitchen, you might pause and think about how thousands of years ago, the Egyptians were using the same golden substance to heal their bodies and spirits. Perhaps there's something timeless about the way honey connects us to nature's own wisdom, passed down through centuries of human experience. Now, let's slow down for a moment and picture something that you probably haven't thought about. How honey impacted the daily life of ancient Egyptians beyond medicine and religion. Imagine it's early morning. The sun is just rising over the Nile, casting a golden glow over the land. You're in a modest Egyptian home, the smell of fresh-baked bread mingling with the earthy scent of the river's edge. A woman, perhaps your mother, takes a small jar of honey from the shelf and spreads it on the warm, fluffy bread she just pulled from the oven. This isn't just a breakfast, it's a small moment of daily ritual, one that has carried on for centuries. In ancient Egypt, honey was often used in the kitchen as a key ingredient in many dishes. Bread and honey were a staple of the Egyptian diet, and these simple foods were enjoyed by both the elite and the common folk. Honey was more than just a sweetener, it was a vital part of the culinary culture. Imagine biting into a warm piece of bread, its slightly crispy crust giving way to a soft, pillowy interior, all enhanced by the sweet richness of honey. The combination of honey and bread was not only delicious, but also a symbol of the fertility and abundance of the land. It was food for the body, yes, but also food for the soul. Beyond its role in the basic diet, honey was also incorporated into more elaborate dishes. Pharaohs and nobles would feast on honeyed fruits, pastries and cakes, using honey as the perfect complement to their rich, luxurious meals. The idea of honey being a sweet treat is something we can relate to today, but for the ancient Egyptians, it was also a reminder of divine favour. Every bite was a connection to the gods who provided the sweetness of the land. Historians still debate whether honey's use in food was truly a mark of social class. Some suggest that honey was largely reserved for the upper classes, while others argue that it was a common food enjoyed by nearly everyone. One thing we do know for sure is that honey wasn't just a luxury, it was also part of the Egyptian identity, something that transcended class boundaries and was woven into the fabric of daily life. Whether you were a farmer or a pharaoh, honey was a universal thread that tied the people of Egypt together. And let's not forget that honey wasn't just eaten straight from the jar or spread on bread. The Egyptians were masters at using honey to enhance their other foods, like fruits and desserts. Imagine a dish of dried dates, figs and pomegranates, all drizzled with thick golden honey, sweeter than anything you've ever tasted. These honeyed fruits were often served at banquets or as offerings to the gods, but they were also enjoyed at home as a treat. Think of them as the ancient Egyptian version of a fruit salad, but with a much more decadent twist. What's more, honey's influence wasn't confined to the dining table. It was also used in Egyptian beverages. For example, one of the most popular drinks in ancient Egypt was a form of beer made from barley and honey. This sweet, frothy beverage was consumed by people of all social classes, and it was often drunk during celebrations, festivals, and even everyday meals. The combination of barley and honey created a rich, nourishing drink that could be both refreshing and filling. In fact, beer was so integral to Egyptian society that it was sometimes included in the workers' rations for large-scale projects, like the construction of the pyramids. It was likely sweetened with honey, making it both nutritious and a little bit indulgent. There's also evidence that honey was used in fermented drinks, similar to what we might think of as mead today. Mead, made from fermented honey, has been enjoyed by cultures around the world for centuries, and ancient Egyptians were no strangers to this beverage. Honey was often combined with other ingredients to create a mildly alcoholic sweet beverage that could be served at feasts or during religious rituals. Imagine sipping a cool honeyed drink as the warm Egyptian sun beats down on you. This was the drink of the gods, served to guests and dignitaries at the pharaoh's palace. As we think about how honey wove itself into the fabric of Egyptian cuisine, it's clear that it wasn't just a simple ingredient. It was a symbol of Egypt's wealth, health, and prosperity. Honey wasn't just about satisfying hunger. It was about celebrating life itself. It represented the fertile lands of Egypt, the bounty of the Nile, and the divine blessing of the gods. Whether it was used in everyday meals or at royal feasts, honey added richness and depth to Egyptian food culture in a way that no other ingredient could. Historians still wonder how the role of honey in Egyptian food evolved over time. Was it always as important in the diet, or did its significance grow alongside Egypt's prosperity? Some scholars believe that honey became more prominent as Egypt expanded its agricultural practices and began to cultivate more sophisticated farming methods. Others argue that honey was always a fundamental part of Egyptian cuisine, handed down through generations as part of the culture. Whichever the case, honey's enduring presence in the Egyptian kitchen reflects its broader significance in society as a whole. The next time you enjoy a spoonful of honey or drizzle it over your breakfast, you can rest assured that you're connecting with an ancient tradition, a tradition that started in the kitchens of the pharaohs and found its way into the homes of people from all walks of life thousands of years ago. As we continue on our journey through the world of ancient Egypt, let's pause for a moment and take a deeper look at something even more remarkable: honey's role in beauty and personal care. Now, we've all heard of using honey in skincare routines, but did you know that the ancient Egyptians were perhaps the first to embrace honey as an ingredient in their beauty rituals? Imagine stepping into the fragrant atmosphere of an ancient Egyptian bathhouse, with the sound of water softly trickling in the background. You're surrounded by the scent of oils, incense, and, of course, honey, a substance so valuable that it was treated with reverence, not just for its healing properties, but also for its ability to enhance beauty and maintain youthful skin. Honey was a key ingredient in many beauty treatments, with Egyptians believing it had the power to cleanse, soften, and rejuvenate the skin. Picture yourself lying back in the cool tiled baths as a skilled beautician massages a rich honey-infused paste onto your face and hands. The honey, with its natural humectant properties, drew moisture into your skin, leaving it feeling supple and hydrated. For the Egyptians, beauty wasn't just about appearance. It was an expression of harmony with nature, and honey was one of the most sacred tools in their beauty arsenal. In ancient Egyptian texts, we find recipes for honey-based face masks, creams, and even hair treatments. One common treatment involved mixing honey with milk or olive oil to create a luxurious lotion to soften the skin. These recipes were passed down through generations and were used by both men and women of all social classes. Wealthy elites would often indulge in these treatments, using honey to maintain youthful skin, while commoners might use more modest versions of the same ingredients, but still with the same intention, to nurture and beautify the body. Historians are still unsure about the full extent of the Egyptians' knowledge of cosmetics, but it's clear that they were pioneers in the use of natural ingredients for personal care. Some even argue that the ancient Egyptians laid the foundation for the modern skincare by embracing natural plant-based ingredients like honey, aloe vera, and essential oils. The love for the honey-based beauty treatments wasn't just a fleeting trend, it was a cultural mainstay that spanned millennia. Interestingly, honey's role in beauty wasn't limited to skincare. Egyptians also used honey to condition their hair. Imagine your hair being gently massaged with a honey and olive oil mixture, leaving it soft, shiny and fragrant. This treatment, which was popular among the wealthy and the elite, not only made the hair look better, but also nourished the scalp. Honey, with its antimicrobial properties, helped to prevent infections, dandruff and other scalp issues. You might not have known it, but honey was probably the ancient Egyptian version of your favourite leave-in conditioner. As we explore further into Egyptian beauty culture, we also find evidence that honey was used to treat other body care needs. For instance, honey was mixed with sugar and oils to create scrubs and exfoliants. Imagine yourself gently rubbing the mixture over your skin, its coarse texture sloughing off dead skin cells while the honey nourishes and moisturizes. These treatments help to maintain the soft, glowing skin that the Egyptians are famous for. It wasn't just about appearance, it was about maintaining a healthy, balanced body that was in harmony with the natural world. Historians still argue about how much the Egyptians valued personal appearance versus spiritual purity, but many believe that beauty rituals, like those involving honey, were deeply intertwined with their spiritual beliefs. To the Egyptians, being clean, polished and well-groomed was a reflection of their relationship with the divine. If you looked good, it was thought that you were in balance, and that balance was a reflection of the harmony between the body and the soul. Beauty in this sense wasn't just skin deep, it was part of a larger spiritual practice. What's perhaps most fascinating is that honey's use in beauty wasn't just reserved for the rich or the elite. Honey was accessible to a wider range of people than other luxury items like perfumes or oils. Though the quality of the honey might differ depending on one's social status, the belief in its efficacy for beauty treatments remained universal. Whether you were an Egyptian noble with access to the finest honey, or a humble famere using a more modest variety, honey was still regarded as an essential part of your personal care routine. So as you sit back and let this imagery wash over you, it's easy to see how honey played a pivotal role in the lives of the ancient Egyptians, not just as food or medicine, but as a key part of their daily beauty rituals. It wasn't just about keeping the body healthy, it was about maintaining a connection with the natural and divine worlds, staying in harmony with the forces that govern their lives. Honey was more than a luxury. It was a necessity, a gift from the gods that ensured beauty, health, and balance in both life and death. The next time you dab a bit of honey onto your skin or indulge in a honey-based beauty product, remember that you're participating in a ritual that stretches back thousands of years. What the Egyptians understood was that true beauty is not just about appearance, it's about taking care of yourself, inside and out, with ingredients that nature has provided. As we continue to unravel the fascinating ways honey influenced ancient Egyptian life, it's time to delve into a part of their world that often goes overlooked: honey's use in religious rituals and the afterlife. Now, when we think about honey, we might associate it with a cosy morning breakfast or a soothing remedy for a sore throat. But for the Egyptians, honey wasn't just a sweet treat. It was sacred, often used as a divine offering to the gods, and as a key part of the elaborate rituals designed to ensure a prosperous afterlife. Picture yourself walking through the grand temples of Egypt, the air heavy with the scent of incense and honey. Offerings of honey sit atop golden altars, symbolizing gratitude and devotion to the gods. In the grand scheme of things, the Egyptians viewed honey as a gift from the divine. According to ancient Egyptian mythology, honey was considered a nectar of the gods. The sun god Ra, the most powerful deity in the Egyptian pantheon, was often associated with honey. It was believed that Ra's tears, when they hit the earth, turned into bees, creatures that would then produce the sweet golden substance. So when Egyptians offered honey to the gods, they weren't just offering food, they were offering something that symbolized life, fertility, and the divine connection between humans and the gods. Historians still debate the full extent of honey's role in Egyptian religious life, but it's clear that the substance was integral to numerous ceremonies and rituals. Temples dedicated to various gods like Ra or Hathor would have offerings of honey placed on altars, symbolizing purity, sweetness, and devotion. The Egyptians believed that these offerings would ensure the favor of the gods, who would, in turn, grant blessings of fertility, health, and prosperity. In fact, honey was sometimes placed on the lips of statues of gods as a way of symbolizing that the gods were being nourished by the sweet substance. Honey also had a profound connection to death and the afterlife. In ancient Egyptian burial practices, honey was often included in the tombs of the deceased. It was placed among other offerings to accompany the soul on its journey into the afterlife. Imagine being an ancient Egyptian priest preparing the body of a pharaoh for burial. You carefully packed jars of honey, along with food, clothing, and precious objects, ensuring that the departed soul would have everything it needed for the journey ahead. The honey was believed to help sustain the deceased in the afterlife, a food of both the body and the spirit. Some tombs even contained honey jars that were thousands of years old, preserved perfectly by the desert's dry air and the ceiling of the tomb. The role of honey in these burial rituals ties into a larger belief in Egyptian religion, the idea of rebirth. For the Egyptians, death wasn't the end, it was a transition to another form of life. Honey, as a symbol of life and renewal, was the perfect offering for this journey. It was believed that honey would not only nourish the body, but also protect the soul from evil forces in the afterlife. This belief extended to the embalming process itself. While honey wasn't directly used in embalming fluids, it was sometimes included in the mix of resins and oils used to preserve the body. The sweetness of honey was thought to act as a divine preservative, ensuring the body stayed intact for the soul's eternal journey. Historians still wonder whether honey's role in the afterlife was more symbolic than practical, or if its use was intended to provide real nourishment for the soul. Some suggest that the honey was a metaphorical offering, a symbol of purity and sweetness that would guide the soul through its spiritual journey. Others believe that the honey served as a literal sustenance for the spirit, meant to provide strength and protection during the perilous voyage to the afterlife. Regardless of its exact purpose, honey's association with death and rebirth made it one of the most important substances in Egyptian religious life. Beyond the tomb, honey also played a role in more public religious ceremonies. During festivals, honey was often used as a key ingredient in the food offerings made to the gods. One of the most important festivals in ancient Egypt was the Feast of Opet, a celebration held in honour of the god Moon. During this festival, offerings of honeyed cakes, fruits, ants and pastries were made to the gods in hopes of receiving their favour. These offerings would be presented to the statues of the gods in grand ceremonial processions, where priests would pour honey and other offerings over the idols. Even in everyday life, honey served as a reminder of the divine presence in Egyptian society. Whether used in private rituals or during grand public ceremonies, honey was a substance that bridged the human and divine worlds. It connected people to their gods, their ancestors, and the very land they lived on. It was a substance of great power, one that had the ability to heal, nourish, and protect in both life and death. As we reflect on honey's role in the religious and spiritual practices of ancient Egypt, it's clear that this humble substance was far more than just a food item. It was a symbol of divine favour, immortality, and the eternal cycle of life. In every jar, every offering, and every sweet drop, honey embodied the very essence of what it meant to be Egyptian, a people who believed that sweetness and light could be found in even the darkest corners of existence. Now, as we continue to explore the rich world of ancient Egypt, let's move from the sacred and the divine to something a bit more practical: honey's role in daily hygiene and health. Imagine yourself in an ancient Egyptian home once again, the early morning light casting long shadows over the floor. You've just woken up and your skin feels dry and your hair slightly tangled. What do? Well, in ancient Egypt, one of the first things you might have reached for was honey, not just for breakfast, but for its impressive range of health benefits. Honey was more than just a food. It was also a vital part of daily hygiene. The Egyptians, known for their advanced understanding of personal care, had a long history of using honey in a variety of ways to maintain cleanliness, protect their skin, and keep their hair healthy. Honey's antibacterial properties made it an ideal solution for treating cuts, burns, and infections. Ancient Egyptians were particularly aware of honey's ability to speed up healing processes and prevent infections. If you had a small cut or burn, You would apply honey directly to the wound to keep it free from bacteria, ensuring a quicker and cleaner recovery. The Egyptians even used honey in their toothpaste. That's right, there's evidence to suggest that honey, mixed with other natural substances, was used as a paste to clean teeth. Imagine using a blend of honey, crushed herbs, and aromatic spices to scrub your teeth, leaving your mouth not only clean but also fresh smelling. Honey's antimicrobial properties worked wonders to prevent tooth decay and gum disease. The Egyptians may not have had toothbrushes like we do today, but their understanding of natural ingredients for oral hygiene was ahead of its time. Historians still debate how widespread the use of honey for health was in ancient Egypt, as evidence primarily comes from medical papyri and tomb inscriptions. Some scholars argue that the elite classes had access to honey for medicinal purposes, while others suggest that honey was used by people of all social classes. What's clear, however, is that honey was highly valued, not only for its healing properties, but also for its ability to keep the body in balance and prevent illness. It wasn't just a luxury, it was an essential part of maintaining health in a world where medicine wasn't as advanced as it is today. One of the most remarkable uses of honey in ancient Egyptian health practices was its role in the preparation of various medicinal balms and ointments. These honey-based salves were applied to the skin to treat a wide range of ailments, from skin rashes to digestive problems. A mixture of honey, milk, and other natural substances like aloe vera would be applied to the skin to soothe irritation or inflammation. Similarly, honey was mixed with herbs and oils to create ointments for joint pain or muscle soreness. This honey-based approach to healing was part of a holistic approach to health, one that integrated mind, body, and spirit in ways that we are just beginning to fully appreciate today. Moreover, honey's benefits weren't limited to external applications. The ancient Egyptians also used honey internally to treat a variety of conditions. For example, they believed honey could be used to improve digestion, soothe sore throats, and even boost in energy. When combined with other herbs and spices, honey was thought to create powerful concoctions that could cure a wide range of ailments. Imagine sipping on a warm mixture of honey, ginger, and cinnamon, a drink that would not only soothe your throat but also give you a much-needed energy boost, all while providing numerous health benefits. Interestingly, honey was sometimes paired with wine or beer to create healing tonics. The Egyptians believed that fermented honey, similar to the mead we're familiar with today, had special properties that could enhance mental clarity and promote relaxation. After a long day of work, you might sip on a honeyed drink, allowing the warm, sweet liquid to calm your nerves and prepare you for a restful night's sleep. This calming effect of honey may explain why it was so highly prized, not just for its taste, but for its ability to ease both the body and mind. Historians still argue whether the medicinal use of honey in ancient Egypt was based more on empirical trial and error, or if it was rooted in religious or spiritual beliefs. Some believe that the Egyptians' understanding of honey's healing properties was purely practical, learned over time through observation. Others argue that honey's use was deeply intertwined with the Egyptian spiritual worldview, with honey symbolizing life, health, and divine favor. Regardless of the reasoning, honey was an indispensable part of Egyptian health practices, revered both for its physical benefits and its connection to the gods. The Egyptians' holistic approach to health was revolutionary for its time. They understood that true well-being came from a balance between the body, mind, and spirit, and honey was a key player in maintaining that balance. Whether it was applied to the skin, used in a healing drink, or consumed for its medicinal benefits, honey was more than just a natural product. It was a symbol of life, health, and vitality. As you reflect on this, think about how something as simple as honey, which we often take for granted today, was once seen as a powerful, life-sustaining gift in ancient Egypt. It wasn't just a sweet treat, it was a remedy, a protector, and a part of the very fabric of Egyptian life. Whether you're using honey to soothe a sore throat or simply enjoy it in your tea, remember that you're partaking in a tradition that spans thousands of years, stretching back to a time when honey was considered a sacred substance for the preservation of life and health. As we take another step deeper into the ancient Egyptian world, we find ourselves at the crossroads of everyday life and the fascinating world of trade. Honey, though revered for its health and spiritual benefits, wasn't just something the Egyptians kept within their borders. It was also a major commodity in trade, exchanged with neighbouring cultures and used as an essential part of their vast trade network. Picture yourself standing in a bustling market in ancient Thebes. surrounded by merchants hawking their wares. The air is thick with the sense of exotic spices, fresh fruit, and the unmistakable sweetness of honey. This golden liquid wasn't just for the elite, it was a thriving part of Egypt's economy. Egypt, with its strategic location between Africa and the Mediterranean, was at the heart of an extensive trade network that stretched as far as Mesopotamia, the Levant, and even parts of sub-Saharan Africa. Honey, often produced in the fertile regions along the Nile River, was one of Egypt's most valuable exports. It was traded for goods like cedarwood, lapis lazuli, and exotic spices from faraway lands. Imagine the caravans of traders making their way across the desert, with their precious cargo of honey jars packed securely, ready to be exchanged for goods that would later be used to enhance Egypt's culture, temples, and royal tombs. The demand for Egyptian honey was so great that it was not only exported as a pure product, but also used in the creation of various luxury goods. Honey was often incorporated into perfumes, cosmetics, and other products that were highly prized in neighbouring regions. As a result, honey wasn't just a symbol of wealth and power in Egypt, it became a symbol of Egypt's influence over the surrounding world. Through the trade of honey, Egypt solidified its position as one of the ancient world's leading civilizations. Historians still debate whether honey was seen purely as a luxury item in trade, or if its use in medicines and rituals gave it a deeper significance. Some scholars argue that honey's role as an offering to the gods and its importance in health and beauty gave it a sacred status, elevating its value even further. Others believe that honey's role in trade was primarily economic, a valuable commodity that could be exchanged for other goods. Whatever the case, it's clear that honey played an important role in Egypt's economy, helping to drive trade, cultural exchange, and diplomatic relations between Egypt and its neighbours. Beyond the trade routes, honey was also a key part of Egypt's relationship with its colonies and other regions under its control. For example, the Egyptians had a strong presence in Nubia to the south, where they set up trade and agricultural settlements. Here, honey was produced not only for local consumption, but also to be sent back to Egypt for use in royal rituals, religious ceremonies, and as a luxury commodity. Imagine the long journeys that honey would make, carried by traders and scribes to royal courts, where it would be used in offerings to the gods, applied in medical treatments, or consumed as delicacy at feasts. As the Egyptians traded honey with other regions, they were also exposed to new ideas and products that influenced their own culture. The connection between Egypt and the ancient world was a two-way street, with Egyptian honey making its way into the hands of foreign cultures and foreign goods enriching Egyptian society. For example, honey was often combined with other local ingredients to create new medicinal remedies, or to be used in ritualistic practices. It was through this exchange that the Egyptians discovered new ways to enhance their honey-based products, making them even more desirable to foreign markets. Historians continue to uncover new evidence about the extent of honey's trade and its importance to Egypt's economy. Excavations of ancient Egyptian marketplaces and royal tombs have revealed large quantities of honey jars, many of which were inscribed with the names of famous pharaohs and gods. Some of these jars were even sealed with wax, preserving the honey inside for thousands of years. The discovery of these ancient honey jars provides a glimpse into the role honey played in Egypt's economy and society, offering a tangible connection to the past. One of the most fascinating aspects of honey's trade is its connection to Egyptian art and culture. The wealth generated from the trade of honey allowed the Egyptians to create magnificent art and architecture, much of which was dedicated to the gods. Temples, tombs, and statues were often adorned with depictions of bees, or honey-related motifs symbolising the divine nature of the substance. Imagine walking through the grand temples of Karnak or Luxor, where intricate carvings on the walls depict bees and honeycomb patterns, signifying the sacredness of honey in Egyptian culture. The Egyptians were also masterful at marketing their honey as a symbol of power and prestige. Royal families, priests, and nobles would commission honey jars decorated with elaborate designs to serve as offerings to the gods or to showcase their wealth. These honey jars were not only functional, they were works of art, designed to reflect the status and power of the person who commissioned them. The art of honey jars became so refined that some of the most exquisite examples have been found in the tombs of pharaohs, serving as a testament to their wealth and devotion to the gods. As we reflect on honey's role in trade, it's clear that it was more than just a sweet commodity. It was a symbol of Egypt's power, cultural richness, and divine connection. Honey served as a bridge between Egypt and the rest of the ancient world, facilitating trade, cultural exchange and diplomacy. Whether it was exchanged for luxury goods, used in religious rituals, or consumed by the elite, honey was an essential part of Egypt's legacy, one that continues to captivate us today. As we approach the next chapter in our journey through ancient Egypt, let's shift our focus to something particularly fascinating: honey's role in the making of cosmetics and beauty treatments. If you've ever found yourself browsing the endless aisles of skincare products in modern stores, you might be surprised to learn that honey was already considered a luxury beauty ingredient thousands of years ago. The ancient Egyptians, with their deep appreciation for beauty and elegance, were one of the first civilizations to incorporate honey into their daily beauty routines. So let's imagine once again that you're in ancient Egypt, perhaps in a bustling marketplace in Alexandria, or at the court of a powerful pharaoh. The air is filled with the scent of perfumes and oils, and you see women and men alike rubbing honey into their skin, treating their faces with delicate concoctions and applying honey-based salves to keep their skin youthful and glowing. Honey, with its naturally hydrating and antimicrobial properties, was the perfect ingredient for ancient Egyptian cosmetics. It's said that Cleopatra, one of the most famous and beautiful queens in history, was known to have used honey as part of her beauty routine. Cleopatra's famous bath of milk and honey has become legendary, symbolising the extravagant lengths she went to in maintaining her radiant complexion. The bath was said to hydrate and soften the skin, while the honey's natural properties worked to cleanse and nourish. Cleopatra's beauty regimen was far from unique. Many Egyptian women and men used honey in their daily beauty rituals, creating masks, lotions and perfumes to enhance their appearance. As we continue, picture yourself applying a honey-based mask to your face. The sticky substance clings to your skin, creating a soothing and cooling effect. The Egyptians mixed honey with a variety of other natural ingredients to create their cosmetics. Honey, when combined with milk, was often used as a facial mask. Milk contains lactic acid, which helped to exfoliate the skin, while honey provided deep hydration. Together, they made a powerful skincare treatment, one that was accessible to both the wealthy elite and commoners alike. The Egyptians understood the importance of healthy skin, and honey helped to maintain it. The healing properties of honey weren't just used externally. Egyptians also believed that consuming honey contributed to beauty. Honey, when mixed with other natural ingredients like oils and herbs, was consumed as a tonic to help promote healthy skin from the inside out. It was believed to improve complexion, soothe skin irritations, and even slow down the signs of aging. Imagine sipping a honey drink infused with rosewater, cinnamon, and herbs, an ancient beauty tonic that not only nourished the skin but also promoted overall well-being. Honey also found its way into the creation of perfumes. The Egyptians were known for their exquisite perfumes, often made from exotic flowers, spices, and resins. Honey was sometimes added to perfumes, not only for its sweet scent but also because of its fixing properties. Honey helped to bind the other aromatic ingredients together, ensuring that the fragrance would last longer. The ancient Egyptians were masters of perfume making, and their perfumes were highly prized in trade. Some of these perfumes, like the ones worn by Egyptian royalty, would have had honey as a key ingredient, adding an extra layer of sweetness and warmth to their fragrances. Historians still argue whether honey's use in beauty was purely practical, or if it had a symbolic meaning as well. Some scholars suggest that honey, with its divine associations and connections to the gods, was believed to have a magical quality, enhancing beauty and ensuring the favour of the gods. Others believe that honey's primary role was as a nourishing and healing substance, something that worked in tandem with other natural ingredients to keep the skin healthy and vibrant. Regardless of its symbolic significance, what's clear is that honey was an integral part of the ancient Egyptian beauty routine. It was more than just a luxury, it was a necessity for maintaining physical and spiritual well-being. The widespread use of honey in cosmetics also reflects a larger cultural value in ancient Egypt, the importance of appearance and self-care. The Egyptians, especially the elite, were deeply invested in maintaining their appearance, both for social status and for spiritual reasons. Beauty was seen as a reflection of a person's connection to the divine, and so the desire to be well-groomed and radiant wasn't just about vanity, it was about living in harmony with the gods. This emphasis on beauty and self-care extended beyond the elite to include people from all walks of life. Even common Egyptians used honey to care for their skin, highlighting how deeply ingrained honey was in the culture. Honey's role in cosmetics was also part of a broader interest in personal hygiene and wellness. Ancient Egyptians were meticulous about their cleanliness, regularly bathing and applying oils and balms to protect their skin from the harsh desert climate. Honey, with its natural ability to keep the skin soft and hydrated, was the perfect solution to the challenges posed by the hot, dry environment. The Egyptians understood that beauty was not just skin deep, it was about nourishing the body and spirit in equal measure. Honey helped to fulfill both of these needs, offering a way to maintain physical appearance while also connecting to the divine and ensuring spiritual purity. As we reflect on honey's role in ancient Egyptian beauty rituals, it's fascinating to think about how something as simple as honey can carry so much cultural weight. It wasn't just a sweet treat, it was a symbol of beauty, divinity, and healing. Whether applied to the skin, consumed as a tonic, or used in perfumes, honey was a central part of the ancient Egyptian quest for beauty, health, and spiritual balance. In many ways, it's no surprise that the Egyptians, known for their appreciation of luxury and the finer things in life, would have discovered and celebrated honey's many uses long before the rest of the world. Now, let's venture into a realm of Egyptian life that might surprise you: honey's role in the afterlife. Yes, in ancient Egypt, where the journey to the afterlife was of paramount importance, honey wasn't just seen as a daily commodity. It also played a crucial role in ensuring a safe and prosperous passage to the next world. The ancient Egyptians believed that the dead required sustenance just as the living did, and honey, with its life-giving properties, was seen as an essential part of the burial rituals. Imagine then a grand tomb in the Valley of the Kings, the scent of honey wafting through the air as priests prepare offerings for a departed pharaoh, the honey's purpose, to nourish the soul on its long journey to eternity. Honey was often included in the burial goods of the dead, sometimes as an offering to the gods, and sometimes as a source of nourishment for the deceased. It was believed that the soul would need food and drink in the afterlife to sustain itself as it journeyed through the underworld, or duat, and to reach the final resting place, the field of reeds. Honey, with its sweet nourishing qualities, was seen as the ideal offering to ensure that the soul would not go hungry and would have the strength to endure the trials of the afterlife. In tombs and burial sites, archaeologists have found jars of honey sealed and carefully placed alongside other food offerings. These jars of honey were often inscribed with the name of the deceased, ensuring that the honey would reach its intended recipient. Some of these jars were even sealed with wax to preserve the honey for thousands of years. And astonishingly, honey, due to its preservative qualities, was often found in remarkably good condition even after millennia. Honey's natural ability to resist spoilage made it an ideal foodstuff for the afterlife, and it became synonymous with immortality in Egyptian thought. Historians still argue about the exact symbolism of honey in the afterlife. Some believe it was simply a practical offering, something the deceased would need for sustenance. Others argue that honey had a deeper spiritual significance, representing the divine sustenance that would help the soul transcend the earthly realm and reach a state of eternal peace. There's also a debate about whether honey's inclusion in burials was limited to the elite, or whether it was used across different social classes. While it's true that honey was a luxury commodity, the fact that it was found in the tombs of pharaohs and commoners alike suggests that it was valued as an essential part of the afterlife journey for all Egyptians. The use of honey in the afterlife wasn't limited to just food offerings. Honey was also used in the preparation of embalming fluids. The Egyptians, as we know, had an elaborate process for mummification, where the body was preserved to ensure the deceased could make the transition to the afterlife. Part of the embalming process involved the use of honey, mixed with other substances, such as resins, to preserve the body and protect it from decay. Honey's antibacterial properties made it an ideal component in these embalming fluids, preventing the body from rotting and ensuring that it remained intact for the journey to the afterlife. Imagine yourself now, standing in the dimly lit room of an ancient Egyptian tomb, the air thick with the scent of honey and resin. Priests are carefully preparing the body of a high-ranking official for mummification. As they work, they apply a mixture of honey, oils and resins to preserve the body, ensuring that it remains undisturbed for eternity. The honey, with its divine qualities, is believed to protect the body, ensuring that the soul will have a safe passage to the afterlife and be able to live on in the next world. The ancient Egyptians also used honey in their religious ceremonies, particularly in offerings to the gods. Honey was seen as a symbol of abundance, purity, and divine favour. It was often offered to deities like Ra, the sun god, and Osiris, the god of the afterlife, in hopes of receiving their blessing. These honey offerings were an essential part of the Egyptian religious system, providing a means for the living to connect with the divine and ensure favour in the afterlife. Interestingly, honey was also used in the creation of sacred texts and symbols. Some scholars believe that honey was used to write inscriptions on papyrus, or to create symbolic marks on the walls of tombs and temples. The idea was that honey, with its sacred and nourishing qualities, could help ensure that the gods would read and respond favourably to the prayers and requests of the living. As we reflect on honey's role in the afterlife, we begin to see how intertwined it was with both the physical and spiritual aspects of Egyptian life. Honey was more than just a sweet treat, it was a key component in the journey to immortality. It was not only a symbol of life and nourishment, but also a substance believed to hold the power to transcend death itself. Whether used as a food offering, embalming fluid, or sacred anointment, honey played a central role in the ancient Egyptian worldview of life due to death and rebirth. Historians continue to debate the full extent of honey's role in Egyptian burial practices, especially in relation to the spiritual beliefs of the time. Some suggest that honey was used primarily as a practical offering, ensuring that the deceased would not go hungry in the afterlife. Others argue that honey's inclusion was part of a more complex religious system, one in which honey symbolised not only sustenance but also divine protection and immortality. What is clear, however, is that honey held a special place in Egyptian culture, revered not just as a natural product, but as a key element in the eternal journey of the soul. Now, let's take a step back in time and explore the fascinating world of ancient Egyptian medicine. If you've ever visited a modern pharmacy and been bewildered by the sheer number of remedies and treatments on offer, it might be hard to imagine that thousands of years ago, ancient Egyptians were crafting their own elaborate forms of medicine. And yes, honey was right there at the heart of it. The ancient Egyptians were pioneers in the field of healthcare, developing treatments for a wide range of ailments using natural substances. Among these, honey was seen not only as a luxury food or beauty product, but also as a powerful medicinal ingredient. The Egyptians had a profound understanding of the healing properties of honey. Its ability to soothe wounds, fight infections, and promote healing made it a staple in their medicinal arsenal. Honey, with its natural antiseptic qualities, was used to treat everything from cuts and bruises to more serious infections. Imagine yourself in ancient Egypt now, perhaps in a physician's quarters or a temple dedicated to the god of healing, Imhotep. The air smells faintly of herbs and incense, and you see physicians preparing ointments that include honey as one of their main ingredients. These treatments were applied to the skin, helping to heal wounds and prevent infection. The Egyptians had no knowledge of bacteria, but they instinctively understood that honey could prevent wounds from becoming infected, a concept that modern science would confirm millennia later. One of the most common uses of honey in ancient Egyptian medicine was in the treatment of wounds. Honey, with its high viscosity and natural sugars, provided a protective barrier over the wound, keeping out dirt and bacteria while helping the tissue underneath to heal. Its antimicrobial properties made it an ideal treatment for everything from small cuts to larger, more serious injuries. Honey was often mixed with other ingredients, such as herbs or resins, to create poultices or balms that could be applied directly to the wound. These concoctions were used not just to heal physical injuries, but also to help prevent the spread of infection, which, in a world without antibiotics, could be deadly. Historians still argue whether honey was used primarily for its medicinal properties, or if it also had a spiritual significance in the treatment of illness. Some believe that honey's healing power was linked to its association with the gods, particularly the sun god Ra, who was seen as a healer and protector. Honey's sweetness and its life-giving properties might have been seen as gifts from the divine, and using it in medicine could have been viewed as a way to invoke the god's favour. Others argue that the Egyptians were simply practical, using honey because it worked. Its ability to prevent infection and promote healing was likely well known to them, even without a full understanding of the science behind it. Honey was also used in the treatment of more chronic conditions, such as digestive issues. Ancient Egyptian physicians would have prescribed honey to ease indigestion, treat constipation, and even help with sore throats. Honey's natural sweetness made it a comforting remedy for many ailments, and it was often used in combination with other ingredients like herbs and spices to create soothing drinks or tonics. Imagine sipping a warm honey drink infused with ginger or cinnamon, a remedy for a sore throat or an upset stomach. these honey-based treatments were not just effective, but also comforting and nurturing, giving the patient a sense of warmth and care. Interestingly, honey was also used in the ancient Egyptian practice of embalming. As we've mentioned before, honey's preservative qualities made it an ideal substance for mummification, helping to preserve the body and prevent it from decaying. But it wasn't just used in the embalming process. It was also believed that honey could be used to treat the soul. Some ancient Egyptian texts suggest that honey was used in rituals to help guide the soul of the deceased to the afterlife. Honey, with its divine associations, was seen as a powerful tool in ensuring that the soul would reach the afterlife in peace and without difficulty. The ancient Egyptians' approach to medicine was holistic, combining physical treatments with spiritual practices. Honey was just one of many natural substances used in their healing rituals, but it played a vital role in the overall system of care. The Egyptians were some of the first to develop a formal system of medicine, and they treated their patients with a blend of practical knowledge and spiritual beliefs. Their medical texts, like the Ebers Papyrus, show just how advanced their understanding of healing was. These ancient texts include detailed instructions for the use of honey, along with other natural remedies, to treat everything from infections to digestive disorders. The use of honey in Egyptian medicine was so widespread that it became a symbol of healing, associated not just with physical recovery, but with spiritual renewal as well. Historians are still fascinated by the sophistication of ancient Egyptian medicine. While their understanding of anatomy and disease was limited by the knowledge of the time, their use of natural remedies like honey was remarkably advanced. Honey was not just a luxury or a food product, it was an essential part of their healthcare system, trusted for its ability to heal the body and soothe the spirit. The ancient Egyptians were ahead of their time in many ways, and their use of honey as a medicine is a testament to their ingenuity and wisdom. As we continue our exploration of honey's role in ancient Egyptian life, it's remarkable to think about how something so simple could serve so many purposes. From beauty treatments to religious rituals, from embalming to medicine, honey was woven into the very fabric of Egyptian society. It wasn't just a product, it was a symbol of life, healing and divinity, revered for its power to nurture and protect. The Egyptians recognized honey as a gift from the gods, and they used it to care for their bodies, their souls, and their loved ones. The next time you reach for a jar of honey, take a moment to consider its ancient legacy and the many ways in which it has been used to heal and sustain people for thousands of years. As we move forward in our exploration of honey's multifaceted role in ancient Egypt, let's pause to reflect on the realm of beauty. While we've already touched upon honey's use in skincare, it's time to dive deeper into the luxurious and often ritualistic beauty practices of ancient Egyptians, where honey played a starring role. In a world where glamour and personal appearance were considered deeply important, and not just for royalty, honey was seen not merely as a substance for health or sustenance, but as a luxurious treat for the body. It wasn't just about looking good. Beauty in ancient Egypt was closely tied to spiritual and cosmic harmony, and honey helped achieve this balance. Picture yourself in an ancient Egyptian palace, surrounded by the scent of lotus flowers and oils. Women, and some men too, carefully tended to their appearance, as beauty was seen as a reflection of divine favour. Egyptians were meticulous in their grooming, using a variety of natural products, many of which were derived from the plants and animals around them. Honey, of course, was a key component in their beauty rituals. Cleopatra, for example, is famously said to have used honey in her skincare regimen. While we may never know the exact recipes of her beauty potions, honey was undoubtedly a central ingredient in the luxurious face masks and hair treatments of the time. One of the most popular beauty treatments involved honey and milk. Ancient Egyptian women would mix honey with milk and apply it to their skin as a moisturizing mask. The natural humectant properties of honey drew moisture into the skin, while the lactic acid in milk helped exfoliate and soften the skin. This combination was said to leave the skin smooth, glowing and hydrated. No wonder Cleopatra was so famously radiant. Whether or not Cleopatra herself actually used this specific treatment, we do know that honey was commonly used in skincare for its ability to heal, soften, and protect the skin. Historians still argue whether the beauty routines of the Egyptian elite were just a reflection of social status, or whether they held deeper spiritual meaning. Some scholars suggest that beauty rituals were seen as an act of devotion to the gods, a way of aligning oneself with divine harmony. After all, the Egyptians believed that a person's outward appearance could reflect their inner state of being and their connection to the cosmos. Beauty wasn't just about vanity, it was about representing cosmic balance and divine order. Using honey in these rituals may have been seen as a way to invite the blessings of the gods and align oneself with the divine. In addition to skincare, honey was also used in hair treatments. The Egyptians were known for their elaborate hairstyles, which ranged from intricate braids and curls to elaborate wigs. To maintain healthy, glossy hair, honey was often mixed with oils and applied as a conditioning treatment. The ancient Egyptians understood the importance of maintaining healthy hair, not just for aesthetic reasons, but as a sign of vitality and wealth. Much like the hair care rituals we have today, they took great pride in their appearance, ensuring that their hair was always well-groomed and shiny. Honey, with its nourishing and moisturizing properties, was a key ingredient in these treatments. In some ways, honey's use in Egyptian beauty rituals was similar to the way we use oils and serums today. It wasn't just about covering up imperfections or creating a superficial appearance. It was about nurturing and enhancing the body's natural beauty. Honey was seen as a divine product, one that could help elevate both the outer and inner self. So the next time you use a moisturizer or hair serum, you might think back to the Egyptians, who understood that taking care of your body was about much more than just looking good. It was about maintaining a balance with the natural world and the divine. Another interesting aspect of honey's use in Egyptian beauty rituals was its association with the goddess Hathor, the goddess of love, beauty, and fertility. Hathor was often depicted as a woman with the head of a cow, symbolizing her nurturing qualities. In some depictions, Hathor is shown holding a jar of honey, which was seen as one of her gifts to humanity. The Egyptians believed that by using honey in their beauty rituals, they could invoke the blessings of Hathor, ensuring that they were in alignment with her divine qualities. Honey in this sense wasn't just a physical product, it was a tool for spiritual connection and divine favour. Historians still debate how much influence Hathor had on Egyptian beauty standards. Some argue that her image was merely symbolic, while others believe that she played a more direct role in shaping the cultural practices around beauty and love. What is clear, however, is that honey's association with Hathor helped elevate its status as a sacred substance, one that carried both physical and spiritual significance. But it wasn't just women who used honey in their beauty rituals. While we often think of ancient Egyptian beauty practices as being primarily for women, men too were known to take great care in their appearance. Pharaohs, priests and nobles used honey in their grooming routines, seeing it as a way to elevate their status and connect with the divine. Men too were concerned with their skin, hair and overall grooming. While their beauty rituals may have been different from those of women, honey was just as important to them. In this sense, honey served as an equalizer, a substance that was cherished by all members of society, regardless of gender or rank. Honey's role in beauty rituals wasn't limited to just personal care. It was also used in religious rituals and offerings. Just as honey was used in medicine and embalming, it also found its place in the temples, where it was offered to the gods as a symbol of reverence. The offerings of honey were seen as a way to ensure divine favour, and they were an essential part of Egyptian religious life. In this way, honey was both a practical product and a sacred offering, bridging the gap between the physical and the spiritual. As we reflect on the use of honey in Egyptian beauty rituals, it's clear that this sweet substance was much more than a simple luxury item. It was a symbol of divine favour, a tool for spiritual connection, and a nourishing substance that enhanced both outer appearance and inner well-being. The Egyptians understood that beauty was not just about superficial appearance, but about aligning oneself with the divine and maintaining harmony with the natural world. In their hands, honey became a symbol of life, love, and beauty, a gift from the gods that helped them achieve balance in both body and soul. Now that we've seen how honey was woven into the daily lives of the ancient Egyptians, let's journey into the more mystical and sacred uses of this golden substance. Honey wasn't merely something to eat, heal with, or beautify yourself with. It also played an important role in the spiritual and religious practices of the time. Whether you were a humble villager or a powerful pharaoh, honey was intertwined with every aspect of Egyptian life, including their most important rituals and ceremonies. In ancient Egypt, religious rituals were not just performances or symbolic gestures. They were a way of ensuring the gods' favour and maintaining the cosmic order, what the Egyptians called me'at. Honey, with its divine connotations, was often used in offerings to the gods, thought to have the power to bring blessings, protection, and spiritual purification. This wasn't just about pouring honey into bowls, it was a deeply spiritual act. one that helped establish a connection with the divine and maintain the balance of the universe. Imagine yourself entering one of the grand Egyptian temples. The air is heavy with incense, and the priests are carefully performing rituals to honour the gods. Honey is placed in sacred vessels alongside fruits, grains and flowers, all of which are offered to deities like Ra, Osiris and Hathor. It wasn't just about food. These offerings were thought to be imbued with sacred properties, which the gods would accept as a sign of devotion. These rituals, often performed at sunrise or sunset, were designed to maintain the favour of the gods and ensure that the natural order remained in balance. By offering honey, the Egyptians believed they were demonstrating their respect and gratitude, securing blessings not only for themselves but for their entire land. Historians still debate the exact nature of these religious rituals and how honey was used in them. Some believe that honey was seen as a symbol of the sun god Ra, due to its golden colour, while others argue that its sweet, life-giving properties linked it more directly to the goddess Hathor, associated with love, fertility and beauty. Either way, honey was undoubtedly a symbol of divine favour, making it one of the most sacred substances in the Egyptian pantheon. Its use in religious ceremonies was essential for the continued well-being of both the people and the land. In addition to its use in offerings, honey also featured in various spells and incantations designed to protect the dead on their journey to the afterlife. The ancient Egyptians believed that death was not an end, but a transition to another realm, and they went to great lengths to ensure that the deceased would reach the afterlife safely. This was where honey, as a sacred substance, came into play once again. In some of the most sacred texts, such as the Book of the Dead, honey was used in spells to protect the soul from evil spirits, and to ensure its safe passage into the afterlife. The sweet substance was thought to have magical properties that could ward off harmful forces, offering a kind of spiritual armour for the deceased. Honey was also a key ingredient in the cat, a substance used in mummification to preserve the body. As we've mentioned before, honey's abilities to prevent decay was highly valued, but in this case it was part of a broader ritual aimed at ensuring the body remained intact for the journey to the afterlife. The Egyptians believed that the body needed to be preserved so the soul could return to it in the afterlife. So honey was not just used for its antiseptic qualities, but also for its spiritual significance. The preservation of the body was an important part of Egyptian religious beliefs, and honey helped ensure that the deceased would be reunited with their body after death, continuing their journey in the afterlife. As we explore these sacred uses of honey, it becomes clear that its role in Egyptian religion was multifaceted. It wasn't just a food or a remedy, it was a bridge between the earthly and the divine. It was used to honour the gods, protect the soul, and ensure that life and death were in perfect balance. Whether it was offered to the gods in a temple or used in a spell to guide the soul, honey played a pivotal role in the spiritual practices of the ancient Egyptians. Historians continue to study the religious and spiritual significance of honey in ancient Egypt, and they are still uncovering new insights into its role in ritual practices. Some believe that honey's sweetness was seen as a gift from the gods, symbolising divine generosity and the sustenance that the gods provided to the people. Others argue that honey's association with the sun made it a powerful symbol of the eternal cycle of life, death, and rebirth. No matter the interpretation, it's clear that honey was far more than just a sweet treat in the ancient Egyptian world. It was an essential part of their religious and spiritual practices, a substance that bridged the gap between the human and the divine. In many ways, the use of honey in these rituals reflects the Egyptian worldview, one that saw the natural world and the spiritual world as deeply interconnected. Honey, as a natural product with both earthly and divine significance, was a perfect symbol of this interconnectedness. The Egyptians understood that life, death, and the divine were all part of a continuous cycle, and honey, with its golden colour and life-giving properties, served as a powerful reminder of this balance. Honey's sacred role in Egyptian life also speaks to the ancient Egyptians' profound respect for the natural world. In their worldview, the world around them was filled with divine energy, and everything from the food they ate to the air they breathed was connected to the gods. Honey, as a product of the natural world, was seen as a direct gift from the gods, a substance that had the power to heal, to beautify, and to protect. It was revered not just for its physical properties, but for its spiritual significance, a testament to the ancient Egyptians' deep connection to the natural and divine realms. As we continue to explore honey's multifaceted role in ancient Egypt, it's It's important to remember that this sweet substance wasn't just a luxury item or a tool for practical use. It was a symbol of life, a gift from the gods, and a substance that held both physical and spiritual power. The ancient Egyptians understood that honey, like the gods themselves, had the power to nourish, to protect, and to transcend the boundaries between the earthly and the divine. After exploring honey's deep spiritual ties, let's now shift our focus to the more practical side of life. In ancient Egypt, honey wasn't only reserved for the divine or for beauty rituals, it also had significant practical applications in everyday life. This sweet substance became an indispensable part of their daily routines, not only as a food, but as a versatile tool for managing health, nutrition, and even their social practices. It's fascinating to see how ancient Egyptians, like many societies, understood the importance of balancing the physical, spiritual, and social aspects of their lives. Honey, naturally, played a role in all these spheres. Let's start by looking at honey's role as a staple in the Egyptian diet. In a world where sugar was not yet refined and the sweetness of fruit was seasonal, honey was a rare and valuable treat. But it wasn't just a sweetener for desserts. Honey was used in savoury dishes too. Egyptians would mix honey with meats, fruits, and even vegetables to create rich, flavourful meals. Some recipes from ancient texts describe honey being combined with various herbs and spices to make sauces for meats like duck and goose, delicacies fit for the nobility. These savoury honey-based sauces weren't just about flavour. They were also about symbolising abundance and the blessings of the gods. Honey was seen as a luxury, so to include it in one's food was a mark of wealth and privilege. Historians are still unsure of the full extent to which honey was used in everyday cooking. Some believe it was reserved for the upper classes who could afford it, while others suggest that it was used across social strata but in different quantities or applications. It's likely that honey, as a rare and highly prized commodity, would have been seen as a status symbol in many cases. However, its role in daily meals, especially among the wealthier Egyptians, suggests that it was more than just an occasional treat. It was a prized ingredient, used to add sweetness and richness to food, elevate the dining experience, and perhaps even show off one's status. But honey wasn't just about eating. It was also a vital ingredient in preserving food. Much like how we use sugar to preserve fruits or vegetables in jams today, the Egyptians used honey to preserve their food. Honey has natural antimicrobial properties, which made it an ideal candidate for preserving fruit, vegetables, and even meats. When honey was used for preservation, the food would be sealed and kept fresh for much longer, which was particularly important in the hot, dry Egyptian climate. The ancient Egyptians were masters of food preservation, and honey was one of the key ingredients in their methods. In some ways, the Egyptians' use of honey for preservation foreshadowed the modern practice of canning or pickling. They would submerge fruits and vegetables in honey to extend their shelf life, ensuring that they had food to eat during leaner months or after harvest had passed. This use of honey not only allowed the Egyptians to have access to fresh produce all year round, but it also tied into their reverence for the natural world. By using honey as a preservation method, they were making the most of what nature had provided them, stretching the bounty of the harvest well beyond its seasonal limitations. Historians debate whether honey was used in food preservation across all classes. Some suggest it was primarily a luxury reserved for the rich, while others argue that the practical benefits of honey, its ability to keep food fresh and its availability, made it accessible to many Egyptians. Regardless of class, though, honey's role in preserving food highlights its status as a functional, essential product that went beyond just sweetness. Apart from food, honey also had a critical role in ancient Egyptian medicine. It wasn't just used in beauty rituals or sacred rites. It was also a primary ingredient in healing remedies. Egyptians had a well-developed understanding of the medicinal properties of honey. They recognized its antimicrobial, anti-inflammatory, and soothing qualities and used it to treat everything from minor wounds to more severe illnesses. Honey was often used as a salve for cuts and abrasions, thanks to its natural ability to prevent infection and promote healing. It was also used to treat respiratory ailments, like coughs and colds, by being mixed with herbs and taken as a soothing syrup. One particularly interesting medicinal use of honey was in the creation of poultices. Egyptians would mix honey with other ingredients like fat or clay and apply the mixture directly to wounds or burns. This not only protected the wound from infection, but also promoted healing by keeping the area moist and providing a protective barrier. The application of honey in this manner demonstrates how the ancient Egyptians valued this substance, not just for its sweetness, but for its ability to nurture and heal the body. Historians still debate the effectiveness of ancient Egyptian medical practices, including the use of honey in their treatments. Some scholars argue that while honey was certainly a valuable tool, its medicinal benefits were likely exaggerated in ancient texts, and other substances may have played a more significant role. However, modern research supports the idea that honey does indeed have real therapeutic properties, lending some credence to the belief that the Egyptians were on the right track. It's remarkable to think that thousands of years later, we're still using honey in similar ways, from treating wounds to soothing sore throats. Honey's role in Egyptian medicine also extended beyond physical ailments. It was used in rituals and remedies aimed at emotional or spiritual well-being. For instance, honey was often included in offerings or rituals designed to bring comfort, peace, or protection. Its sweetness was seen as a balm for the soul, a way to invoke divine favour and restore harmony to the body and mind. In this sense, honey wasn't just about physical health, it was part of a broader philosophy of wellness that encompassed both the body and the spirit. Finally, let's not forget that honey also had a social role in ancient Egypt. It was often used in feasts and celebrations, marking special occasions and providing a sense of luxury and indulgence. Whether it was at a royal banquet or a small family gathering, honey was present in the food and drink, symbolising abundance and joy. The act of sharing honey with others reinforced social bonds, with its sweetness serving as a kind of communal blessing. Honey in these social contexts wasn't just about consumption, it was about creating connection and marking moments of happiness and celebration. In conclusion, honey in ancient Egypt was far more than just a sweet treat. It was an essential part of daily life, playing a role in food, medicine, preservation, and social rituals. Its versatility and value made it a cornerstone of Egyptian culture, whether in the home or the temple. From the rich sauces used to flavour meats to the medicinal poultices that healed wounds, honey served multiple purposes, all while symbolising divine favour and life's sweetness. Its presence in everyday life was a testament to the Egyptians' understanding of the interconnectedness of all things: health, beauty, food, and the divine. Now that we've explored honey's central role in both everyday life and sacred rituals, let's take a step back and delve deeper into the symbolic importance of honey in Egyptian culture. Beyond its practical uses, honey was seen as a symbol of abundance, prosperity, and divine favour. But what did honey really mean to the ancient Egyptians on a more abstract level? How did they view its essence, and why did it hold such power in both mundane and extraordinary moments? To begin, honey's golden colour alone linked it to the sun god, Ra, and in this connection it was seen as a direct gift from the gods. Ra, who was the god of creation and the sun, represented the life-giving energy of the sun, which was essential for the survival of the land and its people. Honey, with its rich amber hue, was not only considered a physical manifestation of Ra's radiant energy, but also a symbol of the sun's nourishing, life-giving properties. The Egyptians understood that their land depended on the sun's warmth and light for agriculture, and thus they associated honey with this life force. By offering honey to the gods or incorporating it into their rituals, they believed they were paying homage to Ra's essential role in sustaining their civilization. Historians still debate whether honey was consciously connected to Ra in a symbolic way, or whether the Egyptians saw the connection as more of a natural association based on the colour of the substance. Some scholars suggest that the connection was more symbolic than literal, a way of making sense of the divine power embedded in natural resources. Others argue that the symbolic tie was much stronger, with honey being perceived as a sacred offering to the sun god in all religious contexts. Either way, honey's association with Ra added a layer of cosmic meaning to the substance, elevating it beyond mere food to something divine. In addition to being a symbol of divine power, honey was also thought to have magical properties. The ancient Egyptians were deeply concerned with the afterlife, and they believed that maintaining a connection with the gods was essential for navigating the challenges of the next world. Honey was used as part of funeral rituals, not only as an offering to the gods, but also as a means of ensuring the deceased would have a sweet and prosperous journey into the afterlife. In some burial rites, honey was poured over the body or placed in the tomb, thought to ensure the dead were treated with the same respect and abundance they had enjoyed in life. In this sense, honey wasn't just a sweet food, it was a bridge to the next world, an essential part of the journey from life to death. Egyptian tombs often contained elaborate murals and inscriptions depicting offerings to the gods. and in these depictions, honey was often shown being presented alongside other prized goods like incense, bread, and wine. These offerings were thought to ensure the well-being of the deceased in the afterlife, allowing them to continue receiving the blessings of the gods. Honey, by being included in these tomb offerings, symbolized the eternal sweetness of life, a promise of prosperity and protection that would continue beyond death. Historians still argue over the significance of these tomb offerings and the role that honey played in them. Some scholars believe that the Egyptians used honey in the afterlife to symbolize the sweetness of divine protection and eternal life, while others view it as a more practical tool, preserving the body and ensuring it would remain intact for resurrection. Regardless of the exact interpretation, honey's role in funerary rituals highlights its spiritual importance. It was more than just a commodity, it was a symbol of the Egyptian belief in life beyond death, and in this sense, it was a substance with both earthly and celestial power. Honey's symbolic meaning also extended beyond the afterlife and was embedded in the very fabric of Egyptian life. The act of sharing honey, whether in food or in offerings, was an expression of generosity and abundance. By offering honey to the gods, the Egyptians were not just asking for blessings, they were also expressing gratitude for the sweetness of life itself. Honey was a substance that connected people to each other, to their ancestors, and to the gods, reinforcing the social fabric of Egyptian society. The symbolism of honey in Egyptian culture was not just tied to grand religious practices or funerary rites, it also permeated daily life. As mentioned before, honey was used in various forms of food and drink, often shared at feasts and festivals. These occasions were about more than just eating. They were about community, about honouring one another and the gods. In this context, honey acted as a sweet connector, bringing people together and reinforcing social bonds. Whether at a royal banquet or a humble family meal, honey helped nourish not only the body but also the spirit. As we consider honey's many roles, it's also important to note how it fit into the Egyptians' broader worldview, one in which everything was interconnected. The Egyptians saw no clear divide between the sacred and the mundane. Everything, from the food they ate to the rituals they performed, was linked to the divine. Honey in this context was a perfect representation of the holistic nature of Egyptian life, a substance that could heal, nourish, protect, and symbolize the abundance of the gods. Historians continue to explore the complex symbolism of honey in ancient Egyptian culture. Some argue that it was primarily seen as a symbol of divine favour, while others suggest that its use was more rooted in practical medicinal applications. Whatever the interpretation, there's no denying that honey played a central role in the Egyptian worldview. It was a substance that touched every aspect of their lives, from their religious beliefs to their social practices to their everyday rituals, and, in many ways, honey represented the essence of life itself, a precious sweet substance that nourished both the body and the soul. In summary, honey's significance in ancient Egypt went far beyond its practical uses. It was a symbol of divine power, an offering to the gods, and a key element in the Egyptians' understanding of the afterlife. It was also a social connector, a substance that brought people together and reinforced social bonds. Its symbolism was deeply intertwined with the Egyptians' understanding of life, death, and the divine, making it one of the most revered and multifaceted substances in their culture. Whether seen as a gift from the gods or as a bridge to the afterlife, honey was a central part of Egyptian life, a substance that held both physical and spiritual power. We've journeyed through honey's symbolic meanings and spiritual roles in ancient Egypt, but now let's take a moment to consider the way honey was harvested. Imagine stepping into the Egyptian countryside, the warm desert sun shining down, the distant murmur of the Nile's waters calling, and the buzzing sound of thousands of bees hovering over lush gardens. Honey wasn't something that just appeared in jars at the market. It had to be carefully harvested from nature, and the Egyptians took their time to perfect this art. Unlike modern beekeeping, which uses complex tools and machinery, the Egyptians used more primitive, yet effective methods. The process was largely done by hand, and they relied on what they knew about bee behaviour. Beekeeping in ancient Egypt involved both wild and domesticated bees, with beekeepers carefully tending to hives made from hollowed-out logs or clay vessels. These hives were placed in the warmth of the sun, where bees would naturally gather to make their honeycombs. Beekeepers would then wait for the honey to be fully produced before carefully harvesting it. Historians are still unclear on the exact techniques the Egyptians used to ensure the bees stayed in their hives. Some believe that they used smoke to calm the bees, similar to modern beekeeping methods. Smoke makes bees drowsy and less likely to sting, allowing the beekeeper to work more safely. Others suggest that the Egyptians may have used sweet-smelling herbs or other natural substances to lure the bees into the hives and keep them content. While the precise methods remain speculative, what's clear is that the Egyptians were well versed in how to manage bees and their hives. But what about the actual harvesting process? After the bees had worked their magic, the honeycomb would be carefully cut from the hive. The honey would then be drained out by squeezing or pressing the comb, a technique that ensured as much honey as possible was extracted without damaging the delicate wax. The liquid honey would be collected in large clay jars ready for use. It's fascinating to think of how much labour and care went into this process. Beekeepers would often work for hours, ensuring that the honey they collected was pure and untainted. Historians still debate whether honey was primarily harvested by professional beekeepers or whether it was a more communal activity. Some suggest that it was a specialised profession, with dedicated beekeepers overseeing the hives and managing the harvests. Others believe that beekeeping was something that families or villages did together, with everyone pitching in to ensure the honey was collected. Regardless of the exact nature of the practice, what's clear is that honey harvesting was an important activity in ancient Egypt, one that required skill, patience, and a deep knowledge of nature. Once the honey was collected, it was used in a variety of ways. For everyday use, it would be poured into clay jars or pottery and stored in cool, dry places. The honey would then be sold in marketplaces or used in the home. In some cases, it would be mixed with other ingredients like herbs or spices, creating honey-based syrups and tonics that were believed to have medicinal properties. These syrups were particularly prized for their ability to heal wounds, soothe sore throats, or calm stomach ailments. In fact, honey's role as a natural remedy was so important that many Egyptian doctors would keep jars of honey on hand for use in their treatments. But honey wasn't just a product for personal consumption, it was also a major trade commodity. Egypt's fertile lands and ample sunshine made it an ideal location for beekeeping, and honey was one of the many goods that was exported to other ancient civilizations. Archaeologists have uncovered evidence that honey was traded with neighbouring regions, including the Levant, Nubia, and even distant Greece and Rome. The Egyptians would have used honey not just for their own rituals and remedies, but also to strengthen their connections with other cultures. It was one of the many products that helped solidify Egypt's reputation as a rich and powerful kingdom, capable of producing valuable commodities for trade. Historians are still unsure about the full extent of honey's trade routes. While it's clear that honey was traded with neighbouring regions, the exact scope of its reach remains elusive. Some believe that honey was part of a larger network of goods that moved along the famous trade routes, including the Silk Road, while others argue that it was largely consumed locally or traded within the confines of Egypt's borders. Regardless of its reach, honey's role in trade further emphasised its importance to the Egyptian economy, where it was not only a symbol of divine favour but also a valuable economic asset. On a more local level, honey also played a role in the social dynamics of Egyptian life. In times of celebration or festivity, honey was often part of the offerings to gods and was shared among guests. It wasn't just about the act of giving, honey also had a significant social meaning. The exchange of honey was a way of strengthening relationships, whether in the context of family, community, or political alliances. Honey was a gift that symbolised sweetness, harmony, and prosperity. When you offered someone honey, you were not just offering a sweet treat, you were offering goodwill, prosperity, and an invitation to share in the abundance of life. One of the more unusual aspects of honey in ancient Egypt is its connection to the pharaohs themselves. Pharaohs, as the earthly representatives of the gods, had access to some of the most exclusive honey sources. It's believed that the finest honey, often produced from the most sought-after flowers and plants, was reserved for royal consumption. This rare honey, with its richer taste and unique properties, was thought to embody the purity and power of the gods. In this sense, honey wasn't just a common commodity, it was a symbol of the divine right of the pharaohs to rule, to receive favour, and to maintain the harmony of the cosmos. In conclusion, honey in ancient Egypt was a product of great care and labour. From its harvesting methods, which relied on an intimate knowledge of bee behaviour, to its role as a trade commodity, honey was more than just a sweet substance. It was a vital part of Egyptian life. It connected people to nature, to each other, and to the gods. Whether used in everyday cooking, offered in religious rituals, or traded with distant lands, honey was a symbol of the abundance and sweetness of life in ancient Egypt, and its impact on the culture can still be felt today. In the previous sections, we've explored the ways honey was woven into the fabric of ancient Egyptian society, from religious rituals to practical applications, and even the regal lifestyle of the pharaohs. But now, let's focus on one particularly fascinating aspect of honey's use: its medicinal properties. In ancient Egypt, honey wasn't just something to sweeten food. It was a multi-purpose substance with healing powers that extended into nearly every area of health and wellness. In fact, honey was so important to their medical practices that it was often referred to as the medicine of the gods. Now, before we dive into the specifics, take a moment to imagine an ancient Egyptian physician preparing a remedy. The physician, who might have been trained in one of Egypt's renowned medical schools, would walk into their pharmacy, a room filled with jars of herbs, oils, resins, and various natural substances. At the centre of this collection would be honey, with its golden hue shining from the shelves. The Egyptians had no modern antibiotics, no pharmaceuticals, so they relied heavily on nature's offerings to treat ailments. And one of the most powerful resources they had in their medical arsenal was, of course, honey. Honey's healing properties were largely attributed to its natural antibacterial qualities. In a time before modern medicine, wounds were a constant risk for the ancient Egyptians, whether from battle, accidents, or the everyday wear and tear of life. Honey, with its thick consistency, was often used to dress wounds and prevent infection. Its sugar content acted as a natural preservative, drawing moisture out of the wound and creating a barrier that discouraged bacterial growth. Not only that, but the Egyptians were well aware that honey could also soothe inflammation and promote healing. So the next time you find yourself using a honey-based ointment, just remember you're continuing a tradition that goes back thousands of years. Historians still debate whether the Egyptians fully understood the science behind honey's antibacterial properties or whether they simply relied on trial and error. What is clear, however, is that honey was widely recognised as a powerful healing substance. The ancient medical texts from Egypt, such as the famous Ebers Papyrus, often mention honey as a key ingredient in many different treatments. These texts, which date back to around 1500 BCE, are some of the oldest surviving medical documents and provide insight into the range of remedies the Egyptians used. From digestive issues to eye infections to skin conditions, honey was listed as a crucial ingredient in numerous treatments. One of the more interesting uses of honey in Egyptian medicine was its application in the treatment of eye diseases. The Egyptians believed that honey, when mixed with other ingredients like frankincense or various herbs, could cure or alleviate eye infections and conditions. This remedy would have been applied to the eyes in a poultice or ointment form, helping to soothe irritation and inflammation. While modern science has since discovered that honey's antibacterial properties do indeed make it useful for treating eye infections, it's fascinating to think that the ancient Egyptians may have stumbled upon this fact through their natural remedies long before anyone understood the science behind it. But honey wasn't only used externally. It was also consumed internally to treat a variety of health issues. It was often mixed with other ingredients, like herbs, fruits, or spices, to create tonics or syrups that were believed to promote general health, improve digestion, and boost the immune system. Honey and wine, for instance, were sometimes combined to create a sweet medicinal drink that was thought to aid digestion and soothe upset stomachs. It's amazing to think that a substance so simple could serve so many purposes, both as a food and as a medicine. Historians still debate the full extent of honey's medicinal use in ancient Egypt. Some scholars argue that honey was seen as more of a panacea, a catch-all remedy for any number of ailments, while others believe that its use was more targeted, applied only to specific conditions where its healing properties were most effective. What we do know is that honey was an integral part of Egyptian medicine, and it was often paired with other natural substances to create remedies that were surprisingly effective for their time. In addition to its external and internal medicinal uses, honey also had a role in Egyptian dentistry. Dental health in ancient Egypt was far from perfect, as the diet was rich in sugar and grain, leading to cavities and tooth decay. However, honey's antibacterial properties were also put to use in preventing and treating dental issues. Some evidence suggests that honey was applied to the gums or teeth to help with toothaches and to prevent infection. While it may not have been the perfect solution, it's another example of the Egyptians' resourcefulness in using natural substances for health. Perhaps the most intriguing aspect of honey's medicinal use in Egypt is its connection to the spiritual realm. As we've already seen, honey was closely associated with the gods, and the Egyptians believed that the physical and spiritual worlds were deeply interconnected. In this view, honey was not just a physical medicine, but also a spiritual one. It was thought to have the power to cleanse and purify the soul, much in the same way it purified the body. In some religious texts, honey is even referred to as a gift of the gods that could not only heal the body, but also protect the spirit. Whether it was used in a sacred ritual, or as part of a more practical remedy, honey was seen as a divine substance that carried both physical and spiritual benefits. Looking back at honey's role in ancient Egyptian medicine, it's clear that this golden substance was far more than just a food item. It was a multifaceted tool used for healing, protecting, and even spiritual growth. It was integrated into Egyptian life in such a way that it served as a bridge between the material and the divine, between health and spirituality. And though modern medicine has come a long way since those ancient times, honey continues to be recognised for its healing properties. So the next time you find yourself reaching for a jar of honey, you're not just indulging in something sweet, you're tapping into a rich history of health, healing and divine favour that spans millennia. In the last section, we examined honey's remarkable role in ancient Egyptian medicine. However, honey's applications in the ancient world didn't stop at healing wounds or soothing ailments. It was also a key component in Egyptian beauty rituals. Yes, you heard that right. Honey wasn't just for the body's insides or external health, but also for maintaining the outer appearance of Egypt's elite. With the desert sun bearing down on the skin for most of the year, the Egyptians needed more than just water to keep their skin hydrated and glowing. Enter honey, nature's moisturizer. Imagine for a moment stepping into an opulent Egyptian bathhouse. Smooth, white walls reflecting the soft glow of torchlight. The air is thick with the fragrance of myrrh and jasmine, and the sound of gentle conversation fills the space. Here, you'd find royal women and men alike relaxing, indulging in personal care routines that would have involved honey as a central ingredient. Honey, alongside other natural products like oils and herbs, was used to nourish and protect the skin, leaving it soft, supple and glowing. Sebtribe, no fancy creams or serums required. Ancient Egyptian beauty's secrets weren't passed down in glossy magazines, but were carefully guarded and shared amongst elite circles. Honey was used in various ways, as an ingredient in face masks, as a base for skin oils, and even in hair care routines. One of the most famous beauty treatments was the honey and milk bath, where honey was mixed with milk and essential oils to create a rich, hydrating soak for the skin. This mixture was believed to soften and rejuvenate the skin, providing a youthful glow that could rival even the most radiant of gods. Historians still argue whether this practice was exclusive to the royalty, or whether it was something enjoyed by the upper classes in general, but it's clear that honey had a luxurious reputation. The ancient Egyptians were no strangers to skincare, and honey's role in their beauty regimens was intertwined with the culture's deep appreciation for the body as both a physical and spiritual vessel. Skincare wasn't just about looking good, it was about preparing the body for the afterlife, ensuring it remained beautiful and untouched by decay. This connection to the divine is perhaps best seen in the use of honey in embalming. Yes, honey was also used to preserve the bodies of the dead. After all, it's not only great for preserving food, honey's natural preservative qualities made it perfect for mummification. But let's pause for a moment to reflect on the broader context of honey as a beauty treatment. While honey is commonly used in skincare products today, it wasn't the only ingredient the Egyptians used to maintain their beauty. Other substances like oils, perfumes and crushed minerals were also central to Egyptian cosmetics. Some of these, like coal for eye makeup or rouge made from red ochre, are still used in some cultures today. However, the use of honey was particularly valued for its ability to nurture and nourish, whether it was in your skin or hair, or even when used as a calming, soothing balm. The use of honey for hair care is just as interesting. The Egyptians didn't just stop at using honey for the face and skin, they also found ways to integrate it into their hair care routines. Honey, often mixed with oils like castor oil or sesame oil, was applied to the scalp and hair to encourage healthy growth and maintain shine. It wasn't uncommon for the Egyptians to use honey as a natural conditioner, leaving their hair soft and shiny, an important factor for the carefully groomed appearance of the elite. For them, hair was just as important as the skin. It was a symbol of health, status, and beauty. Historians still debate whether honey was used in this way by the general populace, or if it was primarily reserved for the rich and powerful. Some believe it was a luxury item used only by the wealthiest members of society, while others suggest that its widespread availability in Egypt meant it could have been used by people across different social classes. Given honey's abundance and central role in Egyptian life, it seems likely that it wasn't solely the province of the elite, though it's certainly true that the wealthier classes had access to higher quality honey and could afford to use it more frequently. As we've seen throughout this journey, honey wasn't just a product of convenience for the Egyptians, it was a substance imbued with symbolic meaning. It represented abundance, beauty, and vitality, all things the Egyptians cherished deeply. It's no surprise that they would have used honey as a way to enhance their appearance, celebrate their health, and even prepare themselves for the afterlife. Speaking of the afterlife, honey's spiritual significance in Egyptian culture was perhaps most powerfully expressed in the context of burial rituals. We've touched on this before, but it's worth returning to, given how intertwined honey was with the beliefs surrounding death and the afterlife. When Egyptians prepared the dead for mummification, they would use a combination of oils, resins, and, yes, honey, to preserve the body. But it wasn't just about keeping the body intact for future generations. Honey, with its divine associations, was thought to help the soul in its journey to the afterlife. In the Book of the Dead, the ancient Egyptian text that guided souls through the perilous journey to the afterlife, honey was considered a key ingredient in the rituals that protected the deceased. It's believed that honey, along with other offerings, was used to appease the gods and ensure the safe passage of the deceased into the next world. Whether placed on the body itself or offered in the form of food to the gods, honey helped maintain spiritual balance in the face of death. Honey wasn't just about preserving the physical body, though. It was about ensuring that the soul too was cared for. By offering honey in funerary rites, Egyptians hoped to strengthen the connection between the living and the divine, ensuring that their loved ones would be watched over by the gods. As strange as it may sound, offering honey to the dead was as much about spiritual nourishment as it was about physical preservation. In conclusion, honey's role in ancient Egyptian beauty rituals was more than skin deep. It wasn't just about vanity or superficial care, it was about maintaining a connection with the divine, preserving health, and preparing both the body and soul for the challenges of life and the afterlife. Whether used in a luxurious bath, as a nourishing hair treatment, or in the embalming process, honey was a substance that transcended the ordinary. It was sacred, powerful, and enduring. And even today, its legacy continues to shine, proving that the Egyptians were far ahead of their time when it came to understanding the true potential of this golden substance. As we've explored so far, honey was woven into nearly every aspect of ancient Egyptian life, from the sacred to the mundane. It wasn't just used in medicine, beauty routines, and embalming, but also in their daily life, woven into their culinary practices and religious rituals. But there's one final enchanting chapter of honey's Egyptian story that we must address: its sacred significance in Egyptian religion and its use in rituals. Imagine stepping into an ancient Egyptian temple, the air thick with incense and the sounds of murmured prayers. The grandeur of the architecture overwhelms you. Towering stone columns adorned with intricate carvings. In the midst of the temple's sacred space, priests are preparing for a ceremony, and at the centre of it all is honey. The ancient Egyptians believed that honey was a divine gift, a symbol of the gods' favour, and it was used in rituals to honour deities, especially those associated with fertility, healing, and the afterlife. The Egyptians didn't just see honey as a food or a medicine. They saw it as something infused with supernatural properties. It was thought to be a gift from the sun god Ra, who was said to have created honey from the nectar of flowers. This divine origin gave honey its sacred status, and as such it was used in offerings to the gods. Honey was considered an essential element in the daily offerings made to the gods in temples across Egypt, especially in the form of sweet cakes and breads. These offerings were often placed on altars as symbols of gratitude and devotion, ensuring the gods remained pleased and their blessings continued to flow. One of the most significant deities associated with honey in ancient Egypt was Hathor, the goddess of love, beauty, and fertility. Hathor, often depicted as a woman with cow horns or as a cow herself, was closely connected to the concept of nourishment and maternal care, which made honey, sweet nebon, nourishing, and pure, her perfect offering. In the coffin texts, ancient Egyptian funerary writings, honey is frequently mentioned as an offering to Hathor, who was believed to provide sustenance for the soul in the afterlife. Historians still debate the full extent of honey's ritual use, with some suggesting it was more widely employed in private household rituals and others arguing that it was primarily reserved for the elite or for state-sponsored religious ceremonies. What we do know is that honey played a crucial role in ensuring spiritual balance and harmony, both in life and in the afterlife. Its purity, its sweetness, and its divine connections made it the perfect offering to the gods, a food fit for deities and mortals alike. Honey also had a prominent role in the funerary rites, especially during the process of mummification. As we touched upon earlier, honey was used to preserve the bodies of the deceased, but its role in the afterlife was not just about physical preservation. Honey was believed to nourish the soul, helping the deceased on their journey to the afterlife. The ancient Egyptians believed that when a person died, their soul embarked on a perilous journey through the underworld, and honey was one of the sacred substances used to guide and protect them along the way. There's even evidence to suggest that honey was used in the embalming process itself. Some mummies have been found with traces of honey in their tombs, and researchers have speculated that honey may have been used to treat or preserve the mummified remains. In this way, honey served not just as a physical preservative, but also as a spiritual safeguard, ensuring that the deceased would be well cared for and protected on their journey to the afterlife. But honey's religious significance didn't just stop at funerary practices. It was also used to celebrate life, especially in the context of major festivals. One such festival, known as the Feast of the Valley, was a celebration that took place in honour of the dead. During this time, offerings were made to the gods and to the deceased, and honey was often a central part of these offerings. Cakes made with honey, sweetened breads, and even honey-infused drinks were presented at the altars, symbolising the continuity of life and the nourishment of the spirit. This feast, which took place in the Valley of the Kings, was one of the many ways in which honey helped bridge the gap between life and death, making it a sacred food that connected the living with the divine and the departed. Perhaps one of the most fascinating aspects of honey's role in Egyptian religion was its association with the concept of rebirth. The Egyptians believed that death was not an end, but a transformation into a new life. Honey, with its divine properties and its role in both life and death, symbolised this eternal cycle of renewal. It was the perfect food for the afterlife, symbolising both the sweetness of life and the purity of divine will. Whether used in an offering to the gods or placed in the tomb of the deceased, honey was a reminder of the continuity of life, of nourishment, and of the enduring power of the gods. Looking back at honey's role in ancient Egyptian religion, it's easy to see why this simple substance was so deeply revered. It wasn't just something sweet to eat or a healing balm. It was a powerful symbol of the divine, a bridge between the mortal and the spiritual. It represented nourishment, protection, and rebirth. It was a gift from the gods, a food that could sustain both the body and the soul. Whether offered in a grand temple or shared between family members, honey was a sacred and enduring part of Egyptian religious life, woven into their beliefs about life, death, and the afterlife. As we near the end of our journey through the world of honey in ancient Egypt, it's clear that this golden substance was far more than just a commodity. It was a symbol of everything the Egyptians held dear: health, beauty, nourishment, and the divine. Honey was a substance that transcended the ordinary, touching every aspect of Egyptian life, from daily routines to grand religious ceremonies. And as we continue to use honey today, we're not just enjoying a sweet treat, we're participating in a long, rich tradition that stretches back thousands of years, all the way to the banks of the Nile. As we've journeyed through the ways in which honey shaped Egyptian life, it's become apparent that its significance goes beyond mere practicality. Honey wasn't just a part of their daily routines or rituals, it was a symbol of the sacred, a substance that permeated everything from medicine and beauty to religious offerings and embalming. But there's another aspect of honey's legacy in Egypt that we can't overlook: its role in the broader ancient world. Egypt may have been the epicenter of honey's use, but the substance quickly spread across the ancient world, influencing cultures far beyond the Nile. Let's take a moment to picture an ancient trade route, perhaps the Silk Road, where caravans laden with goods from distant lands are winding their way across deserts and mountains. Among these precious goods, honey would have been one of the key commodities, traded alongside spices, silk, and precious metals. As these goods made their way through ancient civilizations, honey found its way into the cultures of Greece, Rome, and the broader Mediterranean world. But it's in these cultures that honey began to take on new roles, expanding and evolving, in ways that Egyptians may never have imagined. Take the ancient Greeks, for instance. While honey had already made its way to Greece, it was in this civilization that honey truly began to take on more culinary and medicinal uses. In ancient Greek society, honey was seen as a symbol of abundance and prosperity. In fact, the word honey in Greek, meli, was often used in the context of hospitality, and it was believed that offering honey to a guest was a way of ensuring their well-being. Greek physicians, such as Hippocrates and Galen, adopted honey in their medical practices, utilising it not just for wounds and burns, but also for more complex ailments like digestive issues and respiratory problems. Just as in Egypt, honey's healing properties became highly valued by medical practitioners. Historians still debate the extent to which ancient Greeks relied on honey as a form of medicine, but it's clear that its medicinal use became so integral that it was even prescribed for longevity. Greek athletes preparing for the Olympic Games are said to have consumed honey and honey-based foods to enhance their physical stamina and endurance. While honey may have had a more widespread reputation for its sweetness and nutritional value, its connection to health and wellness continued to grow in the ancient world, and it remains an important part of natural medicine today. Similarly, honey's connection to the divine and the sacred continued in Greece, albeit with slight variations from Egyptian practices. The Greeks associated honey with their gods, particularly Apollo, the god of healing, who was often depicted with honeycombs or holding jars of honey. Offerings of honey were made to the gods in the hopes of receiving blessings for health, prosperity, and protection. Much like the Egyptians, the Greeks saw honey not only as a nourishing food, but also as a form of divine gift, one that could carry their prayers and desires to the heavens. And then there's ancient Rome, where honey flourished as both a sweetener and a staple ingredient in cuisine. The Romans, known for their love of luxury, would have prized honey not just for its sweetness, but for its versatility. It was used in everything from sweet cakes and pastries to savoury dishes, often paired with meats to create a surprising contrast of flavours. Roman cookbooks like Apicius include recipes that feature honey prominently, especially in sauces and marinades. It was in Rome, too, that honey began to be combined with other ingredients, like vinegar and wine, to create unique concoctions, some of which would be familiar to us today in the form of honey vinegar or mead, an alcoholic beverage made by fermenting honey with water. Romans also adopted honey for its medicinal properties, though they did so in a slightly more structured manner than the Egyptians and Greeks. Medical practitioners, inspired by Greek knowledge, would apply honey to wounds, burns and ulcers, relying on its antibacterial properties to speed up healing. Roman soldiers would often carry honey in their packs, knowing that it could be used both to treat injuries and to boost their energy during long marches. It's fascinating to think about how honey travelled across such vast distances, finding its place in the heart of every culture it encountered. From Egypt to Greece to Rome, honey was not just a commodity, it was a substance that brought people together, connecting distant civilizations with a common bond. And while the specific uses and beliefs surrounding honey may have varied from one culture to the next, the reverence for this sweet substance remained constant. But honey's journey didn't end with the fall of the Roman Empire. Its legacy continued to spread throughout Europe during the Middle Ages, when it became an integral part of both culinary and medicinal traditions. During this time, honey was used in the preparation of mead, which was believed to have magical properties. In many cultures, mead was associated with fertility and love, and it was consumed during weddings, feasts, and celebrations as a symbol of prosperity and good fortune. And just like in the ancient world, honey continued to be valued for its healing properties, used to treat everything from coughs and sore throats to wounds and infections. Historians still debate the precise origins of mead, with some tracing it back to the Celts, while others argue it was the Scandinavians who perfected the art of brewing honey-based alcohol. Whatever the case may be, honey's role in Europe during the Middle Ages was certainly significant. It continued to serve as both a food and a medicine, as well as a key ingredient in rituals and celebrations. Its sacred association persisted, particularly in the religious customs of the time. Looking back at honey's journey from Egypt to the ancient world and beyond, we can see that its influence was far-reaching. It wasn't just a substance that kept people healthy, nourished, and sweetened their lives. It was a symbol of abundance, vitality, and divine favour. In many ways, honey served as a bridge between cultures, uniting people across time and space in their shared reverence for this precious substance. And perhaps, in the end, that's the greatest legacy of honey. its ability to transcend cultures, eras, and borders. From the rituals of ancient Egypt to the feasts of medieval Europe, honey has remained a constant symbol of life's sweetness and divine gift. Even today, as we enjoy honey in our foods, teas, and skincare, we are continuing a tradition that stretches back thousands of years, one that connects us to the ancient past and reminds us of the simple, enduring pleasures of life. As we've moved from the sacred uses of honey in ancient Egypt to its spread throughout the ancient world, it's fascinating to see how this simple substance made its mark not just as a food or medicine, but as an enduring symbol of life, death, and prosperity. But honey's journey doesn't just stop with the ancient civilizations. No, its influence continued well into more recent history, particularly in the medieval and early modern periods, where honey's reach and significance expanded in new and unexpected ways. Now, let's transport ourselves to a medieval European kitchen, where honey is still a prized commodity. The sweet golden substance isn't just being used to sweeten tea or cakes, though those too. No, honey has a much more important role to play during this time. Preserving food. Without refrigeration, medieval people relied on natural preservatives, and honey was among the most effective. Fruits, vegetables, meats, and fish were often preserved by immersing them in honey or honey syrup. The thick consistency of honey not only helped to prevent spoilage, but also allowed for the preservation of delicate flavours. It was used in a similar way to how we might use sugar or salt today. Historians still argue about the extent to which honey was used as a preservative in medieval Europe. Some suggest it was widespread, while others believe it was reserved for the wealthier classes. But one thing is clear, honey was a precious commodity, often more valuable than other foodstuffs, due to its scarcity and the labour involved in harvesting it. Unlike other sweeteners, honey had to be carefully sourced, and there was a growing tradition of beekeeping that emerged during the medieval period. Beekeeping wasn't just a hobby or an industry, it became a part of the monastic life, with monks cultivating and harvesting honey in abbeys across Europe. These monasteries played a central role in the cultivation of honey during the Middle Ages, and monks were not only responsible for producing it, but also for developing more advanced methods of beekeeping. They would harvest honey from hives in the spring, ensuring that it was done in a sustainable way that wouldn't harm the bees. These monastic communities also contributed to the development of early medicinal recipes that utilised honey, including honey-based tinctures and balms, which were often used to treat wounds, coughs, and digestive problems. In fact, many of the medicinal uses of honey that we take for granted today, such as its use as an antibacterial agent or its role in soothing sore throats, were well known in the medieval period. It was believed that honey had healing properties because of its natural antibacterial qualities, which are still recognised by modern science. But beyond just curing ailments, honey also played a significant role in spiritual and religious practices during the medieval period. In Christianity, honey was considered a symbol of abundance and divine favour, and it was often used in religious offerings and blessings. By the time we reach the Renaissance period, honey's role in European society has evolved even further. It's no longer just a sweetener or a medicine, it's also an important ingredient in the development of new culinary traditions. The Renaissance brought about a renewed interest in fine dining, and honey found its place in the kitchens of the wealthy elite. The art of making delicate pastries, syrups, and confections using honey became a hallmark of Renaissance cuisine. The famous Italian pastry, torta di miele, honey cake, is just one example of how honey was transformed into a refined ingredient in these decadent dishes. As trade networks expanded during the Renaissance, honey began to travel even further afield. European explorers and merchants brought honey to the New World, where it would continue to be used as a food, medicine, and even a symbol of prosperity. In the Americas, honey found its place among the indigenous peoples, who had long relied on various forms of natural sweeteners such as maple syrup. Honey was integrated into indigenous practices, often being used in the same way it had been used in Europe and Africa, as a medicine, food, and symbol of good fortune. The spread of honey's cultural influence didn't stop there. By the 18th and 19th centuries, honey was well established as a key ingredient in European and American culinary traditions. It began to appear more frequently in cookbooks and was used in a variety of dishes, from cakes and pastries to savoury marinades. The invention of the modern honeycomb shape and the commercialisation of honey allowed for greater access to this once precious commodity. While honey had been reserved for the upper classes in earlier centuries, by the 19th century it was available to the general public. This democratization of honey is just one of the many ways in which its legacy continued to evolve over time. Yet even with all the innovations and new uses for honey, its spiritual and cultural significance remained largely intact. Honey continued to symbolize the sweetness of life and the divine blessings that nourish the body and soul. In fact, in many cultures, honey is still regarded as a sacred food, a gift from the gods, a symbol of fertility, and a powerful tool for healing. Even in modern times, honey is used in rituals, celebrations, and ceremonies to honor life's sweetness and to mark significant moments of change or renewal. As we wrap up our journey through honey's role in human history, it's clear that honey's influence is anything but fleeting. From its origins as a sacred food in ancient Egypt to its enduring significance in the medieval period and beyond, honey has transcended cultures and eras. It has been a symbol of abundance, a medicine for the body, and a tool for preserving both food and memories. As we continue to enjoy honey today, whether drizzled over our morning toast or mixed into a cup of tea, we are not just enjoying a sweet treat, we are participating in a tradition that spans millennia, a tradition that connects us to the past and reminds us of the enduring sweetness of life. As we settle deeper into the story of honey's influence, it's becoming clear just how much this sweet substance has shaped the course of human civilization. From ancient Egyptian tombs to the kitchens of Renaissance Europe, honey's presence has been felt across cultures and time periods. But let's take a step back for a moment and consider something truly fascinating. How did honey manage to persist through such vast periods of time, surviving wars, famines, and invasions? Could it be that honey's versatility, medicinal benefits, and spiritual symbolism were the key to its enduring legacy? Perhaps. But it's not just the ancient and medieval uses of honey that continue to intrigue us. As we enter the 20th and 21st centuries, honey is still as relevant today as it was in the time of the pharaohs. Modern science has unlocked many of the secrets of honey's healing properties, while its cultural and culinary significance has only continued to grow. But let's think for a moment about something you probably didn't expect: honey's role in the world of beauty and skincare. Believe it or not, honey has been a part of beauty rituals for thousands of years. Ancient Egyptians were some of the first to harness honey's potent powers to improve skin health. In fact, honey was used as a main ingredient in face masks, lotions, and even hair treatments. The famed Cleopatra, who we all know had a penchant for beauty, is said to have used honey and milk in her skincare routines to keep her skin radiant and youthful. There's no shortage of ancient depictions of her bathing in honey or applying it to her face. Historians still debate how much of Cleopatra's beauty secrets were based on truth versus legend, but it's safe to say that honey's use in skincare had been well established by her time. The Egyptians, who are experts in the art of cosmetics, likely knew that honey had a unique ability to hydrate and rejuvenate the skin. Rich in antioxidants, enzymes, and vitamins, honey is still considered one of the best natural ingredients for moisturizing and promoting skin cell regeneration. The idea of honey as a beauty elixir wasn't limited to Egypt either. In ancient Greece, women used honey to soften their skin and brighten their complexions, while Roman women often applied honey-based creams and oils to maintain their beauty. Fast forward to the 21st century, and honey is still a key ingredient in many modern beauty products. Whether in face masks, lip balms, or body scrubs, honey's soothing properties are highly prized. Even major skincare brands like Burt's Bees have made honey the cornerstone of their products, demonstrating the timelessness of honey's beauty benefits. It seems that from Cleopatra to today's beauty trends, honey's ability to nourish and protect the skin remains an enduring legacy. But honey's presence in the world of beauty isn't the only modern development worth noting. Over the last century, honey has also become a significant part of the food industry. While honey was once considered a luxury item, today it's a staple in households around the world. The Industrial Revolution brought with it mass production techniques that made honey more accessible, allowing people to enjoy it on a daily basis. It was no longer just a treat for the wealthy or a medicine for the sick. It was now an everyday item found in kitchens everywhere. Yet, just as with any natural product, honey has faced some challenges in the modern world. One of the most pressing concerns today is the declining population of bees. As we've learned more about the important role bees play in pollination and the overall health of ecosystems, it has become increasingly clear how vital they are to the production of honey. Honey is no longer just a foodstuff. It's a symbol of environmental sustainability. The global decline in bee populations has led to an increased awareness of the fragility of the ecosystems that produce honey. and there is now a growing movement to protect bees and their habitats. At the same time, honey production has faced criticism due to concerns over unethical beekeeping practices. The rise of large-scale commercial honey farms has led to questions about the treatment of bees and the quality of the honey they produce. Many consumers today are becoming more mindful of the source of their honey, opting for organic and locally produced varieties that are harvested sustainably. Some have even taken to urban beekeeping, maintaining their own hives in backyards or on rooftops, hoping to play a small part in the preservation of the bee population. This brings us to another modern development, the rise of honey semi-money as a superfood. Honey, particularly raw and unfiltered honey, is packed with nutrients and health benefits that are often overlooked in favour of more mainstream superfoods like kale or chia seeds. Raw honey contains probiotics, antioxidants and enzymes that are beneficial for gut health, immune function and overall well-being. Some studies even suggest that honey can help alleviate allergy symptoms, as it contains trace amounts of local pollen, which can help the body build immunity to seasonal allergens. It seems that honey is still just as potent today as it was in ancient times. Historians still argue about the true origins of honey's connection to health, with some suggesting that its use as a medicinal remedy might date back even further than ancient Egypt. However, what is clear is that honey's place in the modern world, both as a food and as a healing substance, is firmly cemented. From the kitchen to the pharmacy to the beauty counter, honey's legacy continues to thrive, and its role in nourishing our bodies and souls shows no sign of fading. As we look back on honey's rich history, it's impossible not to feel a sense of awe at how such a simple substance has endured through the centuries. What started as a sacred offering to the gods of Egypt has transformed into a vital part of modern life, touching everything from health and wellness to beauty and culinary traditions. Whether in a jar on your kitchen shelf or as the star ingredient in your favourite beauty product, honey remains a sweet connection to the past, a reminder that sometimes the most enduring legacies come in the smallest, sweetest forms. By now, you've heard how honey has travelled across centuries, moving from sacred Egyptian rituals to Renaissance kitchens, from medieval beekeepers to today's beauty aisles. It's a substance that has held steadfast in its importance, despite the passing of time and the changing tides of history. But let's take a moment to dive even deeper into an often overlooked aspect of honey's journey, its connection to the human psyche. You see, honey's significance wasn't always just in its practical uses. For many ancient cultures, honey was entwined with deeper meanings, symbolism, and even mysticism. Take, for instance, the ancient Greeks. To them, honey was a sacred food, a gift from the gods themselves. It was believed to have divine properties, with the gods favouring it above all other foods. In Greek mythology, honey was the food of the gods, specifically consumed by ambrosial beings known as the nectar bearers. The famous Greek philosopher Pythagoras, known for his theories on mathematics and harmony, also believed that honey was sacred and that it held special powers. It was often used in rituals and offerings to the gods, symbolising the connection between humanity and divinity. But it doesn't stop there. Honey also played an important role in the Greek underworld. The ancient Greeks believed that honey could help guide souls to the afterlife. In one of the most haunting Greek myths, the spirit of the deceased would be given honeyed cakes as offerings to the gods of the underworld. These cakes were thought to be essential for the souls to find peace in the afterlife. This use of honey in funerary rituals is a testament to the belief that honey was not just food, but a key to crossing the threshold between life and death. Historians still debate the full extent of honey's mystical significance in ancient Greece, whether it was truly considered the food of the gods, or whether that was simply a poetic exaggeration. Some scholars argue that honey was part of an ancient Greek religious tradition that connected it to fertility and the natural cycles of life. Regardless of how exactly it was perceived, it's clear that honey held a powerful place in the collective imagination of the time, and that its symbolic power extended far beyond the kitchen. Moving to the ancient Celts, honey had a similar mystique. The Celts believed that honey was the essence of life itself. In Celtic mythology, bees were sacred creatures, often associated with the goddess Brigid, who was the goddess of fertility, healing, and poetic inspiration. It was said that Brigid's bees produced honey with the power to heal both physical and emotional wounds. The Celts also believed that honey could be used to communicate with the spirit world. They made offerings of honey to the gods, and it was often used in rituals designed to ensure good fortune and protection. But honey's influence wasn't confined to the mythological realms. During the Middle Ages, honey continued to be an important symbol in European culture, particularly within Christian contexts. Honey was often used as a symbol of purity, sweetness, and divine favour. In medieval Christian art, honey was frequently depicted in religious paintings, representing both the sweetness of God's love and the promise of eternal life. It's interesting to note that in some Christian traditions, honey was even used in the preparation of sacred foods, such as Holy Communion wafers. These wafers were sometimes sweetened with honey, further cementing honey's role in both spiritual and physical nourishment. Now let's return to the practical side of things. While honey was undeniably important in religious contexts, it also served as a practical commodity in the everyday lives of people. As you've already learned, honey was used as a food preservative, a medicine, and even a beauty treatment. But its role extended into more mundane, but no less important areas of life, particularly in trade and commerce. The importance of honey as a trade commodity in the ancient world cannot be overstated. From Egypt to Greece, Rome to Mesopotamia, honey was a valuable resource that was exchanged across vast distances. Honey was often traded alongside other precious goods such as gold, silk, and spices. Ancient Egyptian tombs have been found with evidence of honey being offered as part of burial rituals, underscoring just how important it was in the broader economy. Historians still debate the true extent to which honey was a key part of trade in the ancient world. Some believe that honey was widely traded across Mediterranean regions, while others suggest that it was primarily a local commodity, prized for its religious and medicinal value, rather than its economic importance. What is certain, however, is that honey was a highly prized good that crossed borders and connected different cultures. Its role as a trade commodity helped to weave together a network of trade routes that spanned from Egypt to the Far East, making it an essential part of the ancient global economy. By the time we enter the 16th and 17th centuries, honey is no longer just a symbol of divine favour or an essential foodstuff. It has also become a staple of colonial trade. The sugar trade, which was built upon the labour of enslaved peoples on sugar plantations, was intertwined with the trade of honey. As sugar became more widely available, honey began to take a back seat in the kitchens of Europe. But while honey's prominence in everyday life might have waned with the rise of sugar, it remained a symbol of tradition, health, and sweetness. Despite these challenges, honey continues to be a symbol of sweetness and healing to this day. It remains a reminder of the long and storied history that binds humanity to the natural world. From ancient rituals to modern kitchen shelves, honey's legacy has remained unbroken, and its cultural, spiritual, and medicinal significance endures. As we draw to a close, think back to everything honey has touched. Whether as a food of the gods, a symbol of eternal life, or as a means to connect the living with the dead. Through all its different uses, honey has remained a constant sweet thread woven into the fabric of human civilization. And as you sit here now, perhaps with a warm cup of tea or a honey-sweetened dessert, you're partaking in a tradition that stretches back millennia. As you reflect on the cultural and spiritual significance of honey, let's turn our focus to something a little less divine, but no less fascinating: honey's role in the culinary world. For many centuries, honey was a prized ingredient not just for its health benefits, but for its unique ability to transform the flavour profile of food. Imagine sitting down for a meal in ancient Egypt, Greece, or Rome. Honey, in its many forms, would have graced the tables of royalty and commoners alike. It wasn't just a sweetener. It was a flavour enhancer, a preservative, and even a symbol of wealth. In ancient Egypt, for example, honey wasn't just drizzled on bread or mixed into pastries. It was used to create complex sauces and dressings that would accompany meats, fruits, and grains. The Egyptians were known for their elaborate feasts, where honey played a starring role in balancing savoury dishes with its subtle sweetness. But the culinary use of honey didn't stop with the Egyptians. The ancient Greeks and Romans also embraced honey in their cuisine, often pairing it with wine, herbs, and fruits to create dishes that were both savoury and sweet. Historians still debate the true extent to which honey was used in the ancient world as a cooking ingredient. Some believe that the Greeks, with their sophisticated culinary traditions, used honey in a wide variety of dishes, including stews, roasted meats, and even desserts. Others argue that honey was mainly reserved for ceremonial or medicinal purposes, and was only occasionally used in food preparation. What we do know is that honey's versatility as a cooking ingredient became an important feature of many ancient diets. Fast forward to the Middle Ages, and honey's use in cooking takes on an even more important role. Sugar, although becoming more widely available in Europe, was still considered an expensive luxury item. Honey, on the other hand, was more affordable and accessible, and as a result it became the sweetener of choice for much of the medieval world. In fact, honey was so valuable that it was often used in place of sugar in many recipes, particularly in baked goods. Medieval honey cakes, pies and pastries were all made with generous amounts of honey, and many recipes from this time still call for honey as a key ingredient. Honey was also widely used in medieval Europe to preserve fruits and vegetables. In the absence of modern refrigeration, preserving food was an essential part of survival. Honey, with its natural antibacterial properties, provided a reliable way to store fruits, herbs, and other perishable foods for the winter months. Fruit preserves and jams made with honey were common in medieval kitchens, and they helped to extend the life of seasonal produce. Now, let's zoom out and look at honey's role in the broader global culinary tradition. While Western cultures have a long history of using honey in their cuisine, honey's importance in the culinary world extends far beyond Europe and the ancient Mediterranean. In fact, many cultures across the globe have incorporated honey into their cooking for centuries. In China, honey has been used for thousands of years as both a sweetener and a medicinal ingredient. The Chinese have a rich tradition of using honey in herbal remedies and tonics, particularly for conditions related to digestion and respiratory health. But honey's role in Chinese cuisine extends beyond medicine. It is often used to sweeten savoury dishes such as stir-fries and marinades, where its unique flavour adds a subtle layer of complexity. In India, honey has also played an important role in cooking and medicine. Honey is used in traditional Indian sweets such as gulab jamun and barfi, where it adds a distinctive sweetness that is complemented by the spices commonly used in Indian cuisine. Honey is also a key ingredient in Ayurvedic medicine, where it is believed to have healing properties for a variety of ailments, from digestive issues to skin conditions. Historians still argue about the earliest uses of honey in different regions, particularly in Asia. Some scholars suggest that honey was used in China and India long before it was utilised in Europe, while others believe that honey's use in these regions followed similar patterns to the ancient Mediterranean world. Regardless of the specific timeline, what's clear is that honey has been a staple ingredient in many global cuisines for centuries, and its versatility continues to be celebrated today. Of course, honey's role in cooking and food preservation hasn't remained static. As we move into the modern era, honey's culinary uses have evolved alongside changes in food technology and cultural preferences. With the rise of industrial agriculture and the availability of mass-produced sweeteners, honey has, in some ways, lost its status as the go-to sweetener for many people. However, there has been a resurgence in recent years of interest in raw, local honey, with many people seeking out high-quality honey for its unique flavour profiles and potential health benefits. Honey has also made its way into some unexpected places in the modern culinary world. In recent years, chefs and food innovators have begun experimenting with honey in new and exciting ways, incorporating it into savoury dishes like salads, roasted vegetables, and even meats. Honey's ability to balance and enhance the flavours of both sweet and savoury foods has led to its growing popularity in high-end restaurants and home kitchens alike. Whether it's a drizzle of honey over a goat cheese salad or a spoonful added into a spicy barbecue sauce, honey has earned its place in contemporary gastronomy. Honey's resurgence as a culinary favourite is also linked to a growing movement towards sustainability and the appreciation of local natural foods. As more people become concerned about the environmental impact of mass-produced foods, honey's role as a natural, eco-friendly sweetener has made it a popular choice for those seeking to reduce their carbon footprint. Local honey, particularly from small-scale, sustainable apiaries, has become highly sought after, and many people are now looking for honey that's produced in harmony with nature. As we move forward in the 21st century, it's clear that honey's role in cooking and food culture will continue to evolve. From ancient Egyptian feasts to modern-day fine dining, honey has been a versatile, beloved ingredient that has stood the test of time. Whether in a simple cup of tea, a decadent dessert, or a creative savoury dish, honey will continue to be a central part of our culinary traditions for generations to come. As we continue on our sweet journey through history, let's take a moment to explore another aspect of honey's rich legacy, its medicinal uses. While many of us associate honey with its delectable sweetness, for thousands of years, it's also been revered for its healing properties. From ancient Egypt to modern-day wellness trends, honey has had a pivotal role in medicine that stretches across cultures and centuries. In ancient Egypt, honey was one of the most prized substances for its ability to heal wounds. The Egyptians were pioneers in using honey for its antibacterial properties, long before the development of modern antibiotics. Archaeological evidence suggests that honey was applied directly to wounds and burns as a form of treatment, and its use in medicine was so widespread that it found its way into the tombs of the pharaohs. Honey was also used to preserve other medicinal herbs, allowing for the creation of ointments and balms that could be stored for extended periods of time. The Egyptians believed that honey had the ability to bind to harmful bacteria, making it an essential part of their medical toolkit. Historians still argue about the extent of honey's medicinal use in ancient Egypt, with some suggesting that it was the Egyptians' unique blend of honey and herbs that made their treatment so effective. Others suggest that honey's healing properties were largely ceremonial, with its use in medicine being more symbolic than practical. What is certain, however, is that honey was an important part of ancient Egyptian medicine, and its application to wounds was a key component of their healing practices. As we move forward in time, honey's medicinal uses were adopted by other cultures, each with their own interpretations of its healing powers. The ancient Greeks, for example, also recognized honey as a potent healing agent. Hippocrates, the famous Greek physician often referred to as the father of medicine, recommended honey for a variety of ailments. He used it to treat digestive problems, respiratory issues, and even as a topical ointment for skin conditions. Hippocrates, along with other Greek doctors, often mixed honey with other natural remedies, such as vinegar and olive oil, to create tonics and salves that were used to treat a variety of ailments. While honey's medicinal uses in ancient Greece were primarily focused on its internal benefits, such as boosting the immune system and aiding digestion, the Romans took a more comprehensive approach. In addition to using honey internally, the Romans also used it as an external treatment. Roman soldiers, for example, used honey to treat wounds inflicted in battle. The combination of honey's antibacterial properties and its ability to keep wounds moist made it a natural choice for preventing infection and speeding up the healing process. Historians still debate how widespread honey's use was in Roman medicine. Some believe that its popularity was largely confined to the upper classes, who had the resources to obtain the finest quality honey. Others suggest that honey's role in Roman medicine was more egalitarian, with both the wealthy and the poor utilising it in their daily lives. Regardless of the specifics, it's clear that honey was regarded as an essential element in the Roman healing arsenal, valued for both its medicinal properties and its versatility. As we move into the Middle Ages, honey continued to play a prominent role in medicine, though the medical knowledge of the time was often a blend of superstition and observation. Medieval physicians believed that honey had the power to balance the body's humours, essentially the 4 bodily fluids believed to determine a person's health. Honey was thought to be especially beneficial for the phlegmatic humour, which was associated with coldness and dampness. It was used to treat colds, coughs and sore throats, and it was often mixed with herbs like thyme and sage to enhance its medicinal effects. During this time, honey was also used as a natural remedy for ailments like ulcers, infections and digestive issues. Its use as a wound dressing was still common, with honey being applied directly to cuts and abrasions to prevent infection. In fact, honey was often combined with other substances, such as vinegar or wine, to create medicinal tinctures that were used to treat a wide range of conditions. Honey's versatility in medieval medicine can't be overstated, as it was considered a panacea for nearly every ailment. Historians still debate the effectiveness of medieval medicine, with some suggesting that the belief in honey's healing properties was largely based on placebo, while others argue that the antibacterial and anti-inflammatory properties of honey were, in fact, working their magic. Regardless of how medieval physicians understood honey's healing effects, the substance was an essential part of their medical practices, and its role as a natural remedy continued to grow. Fast forward to the 19th and 20th centuries, and honey's role in medicine began to shift once again. With the advent of modern antibiotics, honey's use as a medicinal substance began to decline. However, in recent years there has been a resurgence of interest in honey's healing properties, particularly in the field of wound care. Research has shown that honey, particularly Manuka honey from New Zealand, has powerful antibacterial properties that can help fight infections and promote healing. Manuka honey has been shown to be effective against a variety of antibiotic-resistant bacteria, making it a valuable resource in the modern medical world. Today, honey is still used in many traditional medicines, particularly in holistic and alternative health practices. Many people swear by honey as a natural remedy for everything from sore throats to digestive issues, and it's often used in combination with other natural ingredients like ginger, lemon, and turmeric to create powerful home remedies. Whether it's in a cup of tea, a homemade face mask, or a wound dressing, honey continues to be celebrated for its therapeutic benefits. Historians still argue about the true medicinal value of honey in modern times, with some suggesting that its healing properties are often exaggerated, while others emphasize the growing body of scientific evidence that supports its use in certain medical treatments. What is clear, however, is that honey has maintained its status as a beloved and valuable medicinal resource throughout the ages. From ancient Egyptian physicians to modern-day practitioners, honey has been a constant presence in the world of healing. As you drift off tonight, think about all the ways honey has touched the lives of those before us. Its role in medicine is just one of the many chapters in its long history, and it's a reminder that this sweet golden substance has been more than just food. It's been a source of health and healing for centuries. As we move forward in our exploration of honey's fascinating history, let's turn our attention to another surprising use: honey's connection to beauty and personal care. Today, honey is a key ingredient in countless skincare products, from face masks to lotions. But long before modern cosmetic companies began to incorporate honey into their formulas, ancient civilizations were already using this golden substance to keep their skin youthful and radiant. Let's take a closer look at how honey became a staple in beauty routines across different cultures. In ancient Egypt, honey was considered the ultimate beauty secret. The iconic Queen Cleopatra, renowned for her beauty and allure, is said to have regularly bathed in milk and honey to maintain her soft, glowing skin. This practice, which was not only luxurious but also practical, was rooted in honey's ability to hydrate and nourish the skin. Honey contains natural antioxidants, enzymes and humectants that help retain moisture, making it an ideal ingredient for skincare. The Egyptians didn't just apply honey to their skin, they also used it to treat a variety of skin conditions, from acne to dryness. Historians still debate the extent of Cleopatra's beauty regimen, with some suggesting that the queen's bathing rituals may have been exaggerated over time. Regardless, the fact remains that honey was an essential part of Egyptian beauty practices. In addition to Cleopatra's famous baths, honey was used to make face masks, scrubs, and ointments that would cleanse, exfoliate, and rejuvenate the skin. The Egyptians also mixed honey with other natural ingredients like olive oil, milk, and herbs to create luxurious skin treatments. As we move from Egypt to ancient Greece, honey's role in beauty routines remains prominent. Greek women, like their Egyptian counterparts, valued honey for its moisturizing and anti-aging properties. The famous physician Dioscorides, who lived in the 1st century CE, recommended honey as an ingredient in various cosmetic treatments, particularly for the skin. He believed that honey could heal wounds, fight inflammation, and even reduce wrinkles. Greek women would have likely mixed honey with other natural ingredients like yogurt, olive oil, and egg whites to create nourishing face masks and cleansers. Historians still argue about the specific beauty treatments used by ancient Greek women, with some suggesting that the recipes we know today are the result of later embellishments. However, there is no doubt that honey played a significant role in Greek beauty culture. The Greeks, much like the Egyptians, understood the power of honey's natural properties to enhance and protect the skin, and it was incorporated into daily beauty rituals across the Mediterranean. Fast forward to the Middle Ages, and honey's place in beauty routines remains just as important. In medieval Europe, honey was used not only for its medicinal benefits, but also for its ability to enhance one's appearance. Honey-based face masks were used to cleanse and moisturize the skin, while honey and vinegar mixtures were believed to help tighten the skin and reduce the appearance of wrinkles. In fact, the use of honey in beauty treatments during the medieval period was so widespread that it became an essential ingredient in many household remedies. Historians still debate whether medieval beauty treatments were as effective as they were believed to be. Some suggest that the use of honey was mostly based on superstition, while others point to the scientific properties of honey that were only recognised much later. Despite these debates, it's clear that honey was a popular and trusted ingredient in medieval beauty regimens. Honey's moisturising and soothing properties made it a valuable resource for those seeking to maintain healthy, youthful skin. As we move into the modern era, honey's role in beauty continues to thrive, albeit in a more commercialised form. Today, honey is a key ingredient in countless beauty products, from cleansers to anti-aging creams. Its natural ability to lock in moisture and promote healing makes it a popular choice for skincare, particularly for those with sensitive or dry skin. Honey is also known for its antibacterial properties, which makes it an effective treatment for acne and other skin blemishes. In recent years, there has been a growing trend towards natural beauty products, and honey has enjoyed a resurgence in popularity. Many skincare brands now emphasize the use of raw, unprocessed honey, which is believed to contain even more beneficial enzymes and antioxidants than its processed counterpart. In fact, the raw honey movement has led to the development of a variety of honey-infused skincare products, including facial cleansers, masks, and serums that promise to nourish and rejuvenate the skin. Historians still debate the long-term effects of honey-based beauty products, with some claiming that the benefits are largely anecdotal, while others point to the numerous studies that support honey's ability to improve skin health. Regardless of these specifics, it's clear that honey has had a lasting influence on beauty and skincare, and its legacy as a natural cosmetic ingredient is as unlikely to fade anytime soon. Whether it's Cleopatra's luxurious honey baths, the Greeks' honey face masks, or the modern skincare products we use today, honey's beauty benefits have been recognised and celebrated for thousands of years. As you drift off tonight, think about the ancient women who relied on this golden substance to keep their skin radiant and youthful. Their beauty routines may have been centuries old, but the power of honey remains just as potent today. As we continue our sweet journey through the golden history of honey, we now find ourselves at a point where honey wasn't just reserved for beauty treatments or medicinal concoctions. No, honey had a role to play in rituals and spiritual practices too. Across various cultures, honey has been considered a sacred substance, one with the power to connect the physical world to the divine. Let's take a closer look at how honey has played a pivotal part in ancient rituals and religious ceremonies, adding an extra layer of reverence to its already impressive list of uses. In ancient Egypt, honey wasn't just a luxury for the elite, or a medicine for the sick. It was also used in religious offerings and rituals. The Egyptians believed that honey was a divine gift from the gods. As a result, honey was often offered to the deities during ceremonies, particularly to the gods of fertility and healing. Honey was believed to symbolize the sweetness of life and the favor of the gods, making it an essential part of the religious practices that took place within the grand temples of Egypt. One famous example is the use of honey in offerings made to the goddess Hathor, the goddess of love, fertility and motherhood. It's said that honey was poured onto her altars as a sign of devotion and respect, as well as to invoke her blessings. Historians still debate whether the Egyptians viewed honey as an embodiment of divine sweetness, or if its use in religious ceremonies was simply symbolic of fertility and abundance. However, what remains clear is that honey was considered a sacred substance, one worthy of being shared with the gods. Its use in religious ceremonies wasn't confined to Egypt alone. Other ancient cultures also used honey in their sacred practices, believing that it had a unique connection to the divine. In ancient Greece, honey played a similar role in religious rituals, particularly in offerings made to the gods of Mount Olympus. Honey was considered a food of the gods and was often used in libations, rituals in which food or drink was poured out in honour of a deity. Honey was especially important in the worship of Demeter, the goddess of agriculture, who was closely associated with the harvest and the earth's fertility. The Greeks believed that by offering honey to Demeter, they were ensuring a bountiful harvest and the continued fertility of the land. Historians still argue about the precise role honey played in ancient Greek religious ceremonies. Some suggest that it was a symbolic offering, representing the fruits of the earth, while others believe that honey's sweetness was seen as a direct reflection of the god's favour. Regardless of the specifics, honey was an integral part of the Greek religious experience, and its role in sacred rituals was widely recognised. As we move into the Roman Empire, honey's association with the divine continued. Romans, like the Egyptians and Greeks before them, used honey in religious ceremonies to honour their gods. In fact, honey was often mixed with wine to create a sweetened drink called mulsum, which was used in both everyday life and religious rituals. The drink was particularly popular during sacrifices and other sacred events, where it was offered to the gods as a symbol of gratitude and respect. Historians still debate the religious significance of honey in ancient Rome. While some believe that honey was simply used as a sweetener in ceremonial drinks, Others argue that its use was deeply symbolic, tied to ideas of divine favour and sweetness in the afterlife. Whatever the true meaning behind its use, it's clear that honey continued to hold a special place in Roman religious life. Honey's spiritual significance wasn't limited to the Mediterranean. In many parts of Africa, honey has been a key part of spiritual and healing rituals for centuries. Among the Yoruba people of West Africa, honey is believed to have the power to cleanse the soul and bring good fortune. Honey is often used in rituals to honour ancestors, heal the sick, or protect against evil spirits. It's also common in weddings, where honey symbolises the sweetness and unity of the marriage. In India, honey has been used in religious ceremonies for thousands of years, particularly in Hinduism. Honey is one of the key ingredients in a sacred drink called madhupaka, which is offered to guests during religious ceremonies and rituals. Madhupaka is a combination of honey, milk and yogurt, and is believed to purify the body and soul. In addition to its use in religious rituals, honey is also an important part of Ayurvedic medicine, where it's used as a natural remedy for a variety of health issues, including digestive problems and respiratory ailments. Historians still debate the specific meanings and roles of honey in these diverse cultures, but one thing is clear: honey has always been considered a sacred substance, one that holds the power to connect the physical world with the divine. Whether it's offered to the gods in Egypt, mixed into ceremonial drinks in Rome, or used to purify the soul in Africa and India, honey has always held a special place in the hearts and minds of people seeking to touch something greater than themselves. As you lay back tonight, drifting off to sleep, think about the many ways in which honey has transcended the ordinary. It wasn't just a food or a medicine, it was a sacred gift, a symbol of abundance and a bridge to the divine. From the ancient temples of Egypt to the spiritual rituals of Africa and India, honey's role in connecting humans with the gods has been revered for thousands of years. And as you relax and let go of the day, know that honey's sweet legacy continues to influence us, even in our modern lives. As we near the end of this journey, we've explored honey's multifaceted role in ancient medicine, beauty rituals, and even sacred practices. But there's one final aspect of honey's legacy that remains to be fully explored: honey's surprising presence in the world of politics, diplomacy, and trade. Yes, you read that right. Honey wasn't just a substance reserved for the home, the temple, or the medicine chest. It was also a commodity of great political importance in the ancient world, and it played a significant role in the diplomacy between empires, kingdoms, and cultures. Let's first turn our attention to ancient Egypt, where honey was not only a symbol of divine sweetness, but also a highly sought-after commodity. Honey was one of the many goods that Egyptians traded with neighbouring civilizations. While Egypt was known for its grain exports, its honey was prized for its quality and purity. Egyptian honey became an important trade item, sought after by the people of the Levant, Mesopotamia, and even the distant lands of the Mediterranean. In fact, honey was so valuable that it was sometimes used as a form of tribute or a diplomatic gift. Historians still debate the extent to which honey played a central role in Egyptian diplomacy. Some suggest that it was traded primarily for its medicinal and spiritual value, while others argue that its importance was rooted in its connection to fertility and divine favour. Either way, honey was highly valued, and its role as a diplomatic gift cannot be overstated. Egyptian pharaohs likely sent honey as a token of goodwill to neighbouring rulers or to seal important treaties, recognising that it symbolised not only abundance but also favour from the gods. Moving westward, we find honey playing a similar role in ancient Greece and Rome. The Greeks, with their love for culture, art and trade, saw honey as a valuable export. Greek honey, particularly from regions like Thessaly and the island of Crete, was considered some of the finest in the Mediterranean. Like the Egyptians, the Greeks also used honey as a diplomatic gift, often sending jars of the golden substance to foreign rulers as a symbol of friendship and goodwill. Historians still argue about whether honey's role in Greek diplomacy was more symbolic or practical. Some scholars suggest that honey was offered to cement alliances and facilitate trade agreements, while others point to the ritualistic and spiritual aspects of honey, believing that its exchange may have had a deeper cultural meaning. Regardless of the specifics, it's clear that honey was highly regarded by the Greeks, both for its sweetness and for its symbolic value in international relations. In ancient Rome, honey continued to be an important commodity, but it was also involved in a new economic system. Romans were master traders, and honey was often included in the vast array of goods exchanged between the Roman Empire and its provinces. Roman honey was not just traded for its sweet flavour. It was also used as a preservative and in the production of mead, a fermented drink beloved by the Romans. As a result, honey was exchanged across the empire, from the bustling markets of Rome itself to the far-flung provinces of Britain and North Africa. Historians still debate whether honey's value in the Roman Empire was more economic or symbolic. Some believe that it was a practical commodity with clear economic benefits, while others argue that its place in Roman society was tied to its association with gods and the afterlife. However, what's clear is that honey played a key role in Roman trade, diplomacy, and even the development of Roman cuisine. Honey was integral to the Roman diet, appearing in a variety of dishes, from sweet pastries to sauces, making it a cherished ingredient in daily life. Now, let's shift our focus to the role honey played in the broader world of trade and diplomacy, particularly during the medieval period. By the time of the Middle Ages, honey had become a crucial part of trade networks stretching across Europe, the Middle East, and Asia. Medieval European kingdoms relied on honey not just for its culinary and medicinal properties, but as a strategic trade commodity. Honey was often used to sweeten food and drink in the absence of refined sugar, making it a key staple in European diets. As such, it was traded extensively between different regions, with the most prized honey coming from the forests of Central and Eastern Europe, as well as from the Mediterranean. Historians still argue about the extent to which honey was used as a diplomatic gift in medieval Europe. Some believe that honey played an important role in royal courtship, given its association with sweetness and abundance. It's likely that honey was exchanged between monarchs as a symbol of friendship or to solidify alliances. Furthermore, honey's role in the economy of the Middle Ages cannot be understated. It was used not only for food, but also as a preservative for fruits and meats, as well as in the production of mead, an alcoholic beverage that was widely consumed during feasts and celebrations. Fast forward to the modern era, and honey won the age remains as a valuable commodity in trade, albeit in a more commercialised form. Today, honey is still traded globally, with different regions specialising in specific types of honey, such as Manuka honey from New Zealand or acacia honey from Hungary. The global honey market is a booming industry, with honey being used in everything from sweeteners to health products to skincare. Historians still debate the impact of modern trade practices on the honey market. Some argue that global trade has led to the mass production of honey, while others suggest that the growing demand for honey from health-conscious consumers has led to a resurgence of interest in local and artisanal honeys. Regardless of the specifics, it's clear that honey continues to be an important commodity in the modern world, just as it was in ancient times. As you settle in tonight, consider the many ways in which honey has shaped human history, not just as a food or medicine, but as a symbol of diplomacy, trade, and connection between cultures. From the ancient Egyptians to modern-day honey markets, honey has always been more than just something to sweeten your tea. It has played a vital role in the way societies communicate, trade, and build relationships. So as you relax and drift off, remember that even in the smallest things, like a spoonful of honey, there's a sweetness, ibis, that connects us all. As we reach the final stretch of our journey tonight, let's take a moment to reflect on everything honey has touched throughout history. From its humble beginnings as a natural sweetener in ancient caves to its revered role in sacred rituals and diplomatic exchanges, honey has woven its way through the very fabric of human existence. It has been a healer, a symbol of divine favour, and even a precious commodity that tied civilizations together. But beyond all of its historical roles, honey remains a timeless, simple pleasure, a reminder of the sweetness in life. Now, let's slow things down a bit as we focus on honey's enduring legacy and its place in our modern world. While we may no longer rely on honey as a primary medicine or a sacred offering, it still holds a special place in our hearts and our kitchens. Its golden glow, its delicate fragrance, and its rich sweetness continue to captivate us, just as it did with the ancient Egyptians, Greeks, and Romans. And as we take this final step into honey's present-day legacy, we find that it continues to offer us a connection to the past, linking us to the same ancient practices and beliefs that our ancestors held dear. Honey's cultural significance today is a bit more subtle, but no less important. It has been rediscovered in the health and wellness industry, where its antimicrobial and soothing properties are once again being put to good use. Honey is a natural remedy for sore throats, wounds, and even digestive issues, and it has found its place in the growing trend of clean, natural beauty products. But even in the most modern of contexts, honey still carries with it the sense of ancient wisdom, a quiet reminder that the simplest things often have the greatest power. In many ways, honey's journey mirrors the journey of humanity itself. It has been shaped by the rise and fall of civilizations, by the ebb and flow of empires, and by the ever-changing needs of human society. And yet, through it all, honey has remained a constant, always sweet, always pure, and always capable of offering something more than just nourishment. So as you relax tonight, take comfort in the knowledge that honey's story is far from over. It continues to be an integral part of our lives, whether we're using it in our favourite recipes, applying it to our skin, or simply enjoying its rich taste on a spoon. Honey may have started as a humble gift from nature, but it has become a symbol of connection, tradition, and sweetness that transcends time and place. As we finish our journey tonight, Hemoirs, remember that while you drift off to sleep, there's a quiet sweetness in the world. It's found in the honey that once graced the altars of ancient temples, in the honey that sweetens your tea, and in the knowledge that even the smallest things can leave a lasting impact on history. Now, as you let go of the day and close your eyes, imagine that gentle, golden sweetness melting away all the tension just as it's done for thousands of years. Take a deep breath, feel the calm settle over you, and know that, just like honey, this moment is pure and timeless. Sweet dreams, my friend. Good night.